Close your eyes, give me your hand, darling. Do you feel my heart beating? Do you understand? Do you feel the same? Am I only dreaming? Is this burning an eternal flame? I believe it's meant to be, darling. I watch you when you are sleeping. You belong with me. Do
That's
you
a little bit on the creepy side, right? I watch you when you're sleeping. It is the Bengals, though, and it was on this day in 1989 that the Bengals began a 4-week run at number one on the UK singles chart. With that song right there, it is, of course, called Eternal Flame. It also was a number one in Australia and the United States. In fact, in Australia, Eternal Flame by the Bangles became the biggest selling single of 1989. The all-girl group starting our show on this Wednesday morning, the 15th of April. How you doing over there? Everything okay on that side of Ontario? I understand the weather has not been the best. We'll touch on that a little bit more during our Farwell Show 5. If it's any consolation, the weather ain't so hot over here either. It's a very dreary Wednesday morning. However, as dreary as the morning may be, it was the exact opposite last night at GFL Memorial Gardens here in the Sioux. Rangers taking on the Greyhounds, game 3 of their Western Conference semifinal. And as I am sure you know by now, it was a big win for your Kitchener Rangers. A back and forth game all night. The Rangers score first, the Hounds tie it. The Rangers score second, the Hounds tie it. The Rangers score third, the Hounds tie it again. And ultimately, the Rangers would score a fourth goal, and time ran out on the Hounds to tie it again. Something that we like to do the morning after the night before a Kitchener Rangers game is celebrate the team's success. There are two players in particular who scored 40-plus goals this season. While Dylan Edwards ended on 40 goals, Jack Pridham ended on 46. So after the Rangers play, we like to the next morning do a little JP on 5-7T for Jack Pridham, or Eddie Ficetti, we call it, for Dylan Edwards, nickname Eddie. Jack Pridham, 46 regular season goals, has not yet scored in the playoffs, but he had 2 assists last night. He's got 10 points in 7 playoff games. All of them are assists, though. Dylan Edwards, on the other hand, has really begun to heat up, and I mean heat up in a big way, so we can enjoy a little Eddie Ficetti this morning.
Pridham a partial break into the zone. Pridham can't get a shot. Now he comes across. Edwards wide open. He scores!
Oh, wait, that would be an assist for JP on 570 and a goal for Eddie Ficetti. But you see, Dylan Edwards wanted to make sure we had plenty of content for our Wednesday morning show. So he was back at it again later in the game. Eddie Ficetti.
And a big save made by Kirsch. Now the Rangers on the power play breakout. Edwards over the line to Pridham. Pridham back to Edwards. He scores! A block at one end, a goal at the other.
It was a little bit like Sam O'Reilly in the game, or the series clinching game in Saginaw. He blocked a shot inside his own blue line and then went for a breakaway to open the scoring. Dylan Edwards blocked the shot. The puck would stay in the zone for a moment. Kirsch would make the save you just heard. And then it was Edwards going the other way on offense. And look at that. JP on 5-7T, another assist on a Dylan Edwards goal. And just for good measure, for the first time in his OHL career, he did it again. More Eddie Ficetti.
As the Rangers, Dylan Edwards again. The Rangers scored. Edwards from in back of the net. How did he do that?
Well, I'll tell you how he did that. Eventually, we figured it out. Dylan Edwards was going around the back of the Sioux net, and he tried to put a backhand pass back out in front because he told us afterwards that he saw Luca Romano in his peripheral vision. And when he tried to backhand that pass back out in front of the net, It went in off a Sioux Greyhound player, past goaltender Carter George, and that was the game-winning goal. Hayden Ellis scored the first goal for the Rangers last night. Dylan Edwards scored the next 3, and Eddie Fisetti celebrates his first career OHL playoff hat trick. And the Rangers, yes, your Kitchener Rangers, have a 3-0 series lead. They could wrap it up right here in the Sioux on Thursday night. I won't get too far ahead of myself, or I'll try not to, but it's hard not to when the team plays like they did last night. Every time the Sioux scored, it just seemed as though the Rangers thought, yeah, you know what? We'll get out there and we'll get the next one. Something happened before the game last night that I'm still feeling a little bit embarrassed about. And I'll tell you that story in just a moment. But as you know, every day we begin the show at 9. The phone lines open to you. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. So before the embarrassing story, and even when I'm working from a hotel room in Sault Ste. Marie, love interacting with you on the show. We'll go to the phones, and Doug is going to start us off this morning. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Mike. This game last night makes one thing ultimately clear to me, and something that was on and on. The Sioux can cover this team like a blanket, but somebody always going to come through. If they stop Prim from scoring, Dylan scores. Yeah, somebody's going to come through because that's what a good team does. And I'm not making any predictions, but I went to go to work this morning and there was a broom in the corner of the kitchen. I couldn't help but see it. So I'm
Doug. Now let's be careful. Now let's be careful now, Doug. Don't get carried away on me.
No, of course not. It was very. I listened to it. Plus, I had the blog going on the computer as well. So yeah, I tied it. I had tied it, and it's going to go on again. At least didn't have that 8-5 score Anyway, I wanted to real quick touch on the subject. You know, one of my favorite subjects is the roundabout over at Bishop Hallman and Huron. And it's gotten worse. When they put Longos and that big plaza in there, they open an exit entrance out a turn lane. People are now coming up, making a left-hand turn. From behind them are scooting to the right-hand lane, is supposed to turn right, and they stay in that lane, and they're going into the roundabout and pushing over to the left. And it's happened to me twice, and someone's cut me off doing that. I can't imagine how long it's going to be before someone winds up in an accident because they get stuck in that lane. People just do this without thinking. I don't know why they put that entrance there without trying to find a way to improve the traffic. Anyway, I got lucky last. I hope accidents soon. So,
all right, we're starting to lose your phone there, Doug. Appreciate the call, but you're starting to cut out. Listen, you don't need to convince me how frustrating roundabouts are, and don't worry if there's a collision in there. There are more collisions in roundabouts than there were at the signalized intersections that used to exist. The difference is the collisions in the roundabouts happen at a slower speed, thus injuries and damage are less severe. It doesn't mean I like them. That's just the theory behind them. I think we're a little bit nuts with the roundabouts around here. And just to put a bow on that, my buddies from up here in the Sioux, having spent a few days in Waterloo region for games 1 and 2 in this playoff series back on the weekend, said to me when I saw them at the rink back in Kitchener, I thought I went to roundabout hell when I got to Waterloo region. I said, oh, you did. You absolutely did. They ain't got those up here. But they'll, you know what? Sault Ste. Marie, brace yourself. They'll get here eventually, because when I get out touring around on my motorcycle, I do find roundabouts in the strangest of places, it seems. There's one up towards Harriston now, in and around Minto Township. Of course, Listowel. I mean, it just seems everywhere I go, I encounter another roundabout. So hang in there, Sue. Ontario has gone roundabout crazy. They'll get here eventually. They will get here eventually. Let's go to Mike next as we start our show this Wednesday morning. He's on the phone with us. Good morning, Mike.
Michael.
I don't want to hear about it.
How are you, buddy?
Well, I'm great because I'm following the Kitchener Rangers, not that other dopey team that we cheer for.
And listen, that was a great game last night. Excellent.
Sure was.
But, that dopey team, though, Mikey, one thing is it's a special night tonight, Mikey. It's Joe Bowen's last call. Won't that be? We will miss him, Mikey. He is one of the best, isn't he?
Oh, he certainly is. It's absolutely
now maybe you can
miss.
get in there and take over for him, Mike.
Oh, no. I'm quite happy where I am, Mikey.
No, but it's a historic call, Mikey. We should, me and you, we should listen tonight for a few minutes just to hear Joe for one more time. And we'll talk to you soon, Mikey.
Okay, Mike, appreciate it. Thanks very much for the call. And I certainly appreciate your kind words and thinking that I'd be even remotely qualified to do such a job. But the good news is not only am I beyond happy doing what I'm doing, I get to call a winning team, Joe Bowen. How do you like that? I really do feel bad for the guy, though. You imagine doing 40 plus years of play-by-play for the same team and never, not ever, winning a championship, not even making it to the Stanley Cup final. Absolutely incredible. I feel for the guy. I really do. And it will be Joe Bowen's final call as the Toronto Maple Leafs season officially comes to an end. And for those of us who are fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the end of this season cannot come soon enough, can it? Because it has been ugly. All right, one more before the embarrassing story and our Farwell Show 5 this morning. Tammy is with us on the phones. Good morning, Tammy.
Go Rangers!
How did I know that was what was coming next? Go Rangers indeed, Tammy. I hope you were making noise back home in Kitchener last night.
I kind of was, but I accidentally fell asleep.
Excuse me?
I fell asleep while it was on.
Tammy, in a 1-goal game, you fell asleep? Well, Tammy, appreciate the call. I always appreciate your support. I know you are always shouting, "Go Rangers," like you just did this morning, but you cannot fall asleep in a 1-goal game. I don't think that's allowed. It's a playoff game, too. Not a championship game, mind you, but a playoff game nonetheless. And it was just over 5 minutes to go when Dylan Edwards scored that goal to give the Rangers the 4-3 win. I don't know how you fall asleep during a game that exciting. It's a very well-played game. So as you might know, if you listen to our coverage of Kitchener Rangers hockey here on your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey, you know that part of the Harris Law pregame show is the conversation that I have with Rangers head coach UC Ahokas. And obviously we record this before they do their team meetings and whatnot, so we can play it back during the pregame show. And because the weather was actually very nice here, in at least as far as Sault Ste. Marie is concerned. It wasn't sunny and mild by any stretch, but it was about 12, 13 degrees when it came time to leave for the game. So we thought, you know what? We'll leave the extra seats on the bus for the boys and let them get taken down to the arena on the bus. And Josh Piercy and I decided we would walk to the game. So we did. And we, used the Google to determine how long the walk would take. But somewhere, some way, there was a wrong turn, and it took us almost an hour for a walk that was supposed to take 40 minutes, according to the Google. So just as we were coming into the parking lot of the arena, the Rangers players who were scratched, not in the lineup last night, saw us and they said, "Farwell, UC's looking for you." Like, what do you mean? And I look at my clock. I pull out my phone to look at my clock. It's about 10 to 5. And usually the head coach and I do our pregame interview around 5:15. So I should still have 25 minutes, but I have no defense here because I left in plenty of time to be on site by 4:30. Something went wrong with the walk down to the rink. And as the boys were telling me that the head coach was looking for me because he was getting ready to go out for his run, I looked down the parking lot and I could see UC Ahokas, the head coach, the guy that I'm supposed to be interviewing, coming out of the parking lot, hanging a right, and off he went for his pregame jog, which he does every day before a game. I missed the interview with the head coach. So associate coach Jeff Kurzakis was nice enough to do the pregame interview with me. But I cannot tell you that sinking feeling in my guts when I watched the head coach running away. The guy that maybe he was running away from me. How the heck do I know? But I was supposed to be there to interview him before his run. That's the way it works. I took the wrong route to walk to the rink. The coach said, I'm not waiting for that guy. I'm out of here. So embarrassed. Don't be late. I like to be on time. I pride myself on being on time. I was not on time to interview the head coach yesterday, and he literally ran away from me. If that doesn't tell me to get there earlier on Thursday for the game tomorrow, I don't know what does. Let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. All right, and number 1, it could be beers on the beach and wine at the picnic tables for campers in this province this summer. Our sister station, 680 News Radio, has learned that the Ford government is going to allow alcohol consumption almost anywhere in provincial parks. Visitors can bring their own booze or buy it in some select parks. Some areas of provincial parks will remain off limits to alcohol, including near playgrounds and sports areas. Parks will post clear signage to identify areas that will remain alcohol-free. Number 2, Ontario Premier Doug Ford is defending his government's plan to build many more jails, saying the billions in cost will be worth it. Government documents obtained by the Canadian press show the province plans to add upward of 6,000 new jail beds by 2050. Ford says the province plans to continually build more jails and expand capacity at existing jails. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Environment Canada says earlier concerns about heavy storms and possible tornadoes have eased, but Ontario's southwest will still get hit with plenty of rain. A string of thunderstorm and tornado warnings were canceled this morning, but the weather agency still has its rainfall warnings in place. Forecasters say between Kitchener and Owen Sound, upwards of 30 millimeters of precipitation can be expected. Number 4, the University of Waterloo has approved a budget deficit of $13 million for the upcoming academic year. That deficit is expected to fall to $7 million in 2027-28 and turn into a $1 million plus surplus the following year. The school says provincial funding increases and the end of the tuition freeze gives it a path back to balance. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a developer wants to add more units to a residential subdivision proposed for the north side of Baden. The updated proposal contains a couple of apartment buildings of up to 6 stories, as well as back-to-back townhomes. The plan would see 431 residential units built, an increase of 56 units from a previous proposal. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning.
Bueller.
We're going to take a quick time out here on the show. Come back with your morning wake-up call for this April the 15th. Either you can make it or I will. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Well, something I mentioned in the Farwell Show 5 this morning, and that is what our sister station, 680 News Radio in Toronto, has exclusively learned, and that is about the expansion of alcohol regulations in the province for provincial campgrounds, etc. Essentially, those restrictions are being lifted, and you can enjoy your alcoholic beverages in all of these provincial campgrounds. And look, every time Ontario Premier Doug Ford speaks, he is going to have critics. That's why there is an opposition in government, right? And some people will be opposed regardless because there are differing points of view, right? Why are we loosening alcohol restrictions? Aren't there more important things to do? Isn't this going to lead to an increase in alcohol consumption, etc., etc. And as we heard this morning with Richard Southern, who was reporting the story for us during All News Mornings with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, what about drinking and swimming and the dangers associated with drowning if you are inebriated? And I get all of that. However, I do kind of side with the provincial government here when it comes to just allowing us to be treated like adults when it comes to our alcohol consumption. And can we be honest here? We know that the drinking has been going on regardless. I feel similarly about the changes announced to education in this province. Again, there are always going to be critics. And when it comes to education specifically, there's all kinds of talk about how classrooms are underfunded and students aren't being supported, etc. And now the province is talking about changes to boards of trustees, which, again, no more than 12 trustees around a school board table. Why is that such a bad thing? Limiting what trustees can expense when we've had expenses for trips to Italy and expensive art that apparently you couldn't get here in Ontario, et cetera, et cetera. Trips to the Sky Dome Hotel in Toronto to watch Blue Jays games or go on conferences. Like, I don't know why limiting those powers for trustees is necessarily a bad thing. I almost choked on my coffee this morning when I read a comment from a local public school board trustee in our Waterloo Region Record talking about how the premier seems to care less about finances than he does about student success. And I'm like, whoa, pot, meat, kettle. Have you seen the way our public school board and quite frankly our Catholic have been spending money, particularly on litigation and otherwise? I don't think they're all that concerned with student success either. Making attendance at school 15% of a high schooler's grade. Again, are there bigger fish to fry in education? Probably. But can you do multiple things simultaneously? Yes. And if you say your grade, 15% of it, is dependent on showing up, listen, somebody's got to start trying to put some guidelines around expectations for students. I think if we can start that in high school, maybe it carries on into the working world someday. And I don't see any problem. You want to call him Premier Dad if you want, but to me, it's just something that makes sense, and it's building good habits for the future. Might help out in workplaces down the road. We'll go to the phones before our 9:30 update. Andre is with us this morning. Good morning, Andre.
Let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.
Force number 369. I got your back. I know what happened in Sault Ste. Marie when because of your walk. Do you remember Bugs Bunny, the road running the coyote? I think that guy that gave you whatever, then the sounds, whatever, I think he changed the streets signs for you to happen with you.
You think I was the victim of a bad cartoon?
Yeah, like
yeah, no, I get it. The Wile E. Coyote was messing with me
because we're Rangers.
That's right.
Have a good one, Mike.
Thanks, Andre. I appreciate it. Look, they're fine folks up here in the Sioux. I'll try not to make it their fault that I took a really bad route to get to the rink last night. And when I got there, the head coach was already heading out for his pregame jog, and I missed my pregame interview with him. At least I got to interview another coach. That's the good thing about coaches in hockey. There are lots of them. Let's get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then let's talk about restrictions on social media for Canadian youth. Is it about time Canada moved in this direction? This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Well, as you may have heard, at their convention this past weekend, the federal Liberals voted in favor of restricting access to social media for young Canadians, including access to those AI chatbots. This all comes out of a convention in Montreal over the weekend, so it doesn't make it legislation yet, but it certainly moves us in that direction. Allison Young is a family physician in Kitchener and known online as the Smartphone Effect MD, and she joins us for a conversation this morning. Allison, it's always good to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Why would a policy like this be important?
I think we've learned in recent years that these companies have designed their products for compulsive use and that they have been specifically targeting children. For example, internal documents from YouTube showed that one of their goals was, quote, addiction. And Meta ignored employees' warnings about some of the harms around things like beauty filters and predators online. Many people may have heard that Meta was recently found guilty by a New Mexico jury for failing to protect its young users against sexual exploitation on its platform. And Meta and YouTube were found guilty of making choices that led to a young user's addiction and decline in mental health. So I think the writing is on the wall here. We need policies that are protecting children because these platforms have shown us time and time again that they aren't prioritizing their safety and well-being.
So, and I agree wholeheartedly that some sort of restriction and or regulation is important here. How would we go about implementing something like this, though?
I think it's complicated and there's definitely debate around that. I think Canada could do a couple of different things. They could follow suit with a country like Australia, who's, as many people know, the first country that implemented a social media minimum age of 16 for creating accounts for its users. So we could do something like that. We could also, and many other countries are actually following that lead right now. We could do something a little bit different and target the actual features that are available to children. So maybe turning off those predictive algorithms that cause compulsive use, turning off the likes, the infinite scroll, maybe having a bedtime where accounts shut off at 10 p.m. I think China does something like that. So, or we could do a combination of the two. So I think it's open for debate, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
These age restrictions really strike me because since I follow you on social media, Allison, at the Smartphone Effect MD, I've seen some of the experiments that you've run. For example, creating an account as a 13-year-old, I believe was the number you chose, and the kinds of content that were being directed, the algorithms were directing towards you.
Yeah. And I think a lot of parents don't realize that even seemingly innocent platforms like Pinterest, for example, I've tried it on there too. And the same thing happens. These algorithms are just so sophisticated and they do it to all of us. But with those vulnerable brains of children, it's just the stakes are higher.
So you said a word there that always I come back to in these conversations, and that is parents. Why should the government be stepping in for something like this when many would argue it's the parents' job to restrict access, right?
Yeah, yeah, I hear this argument as well, or this opinion. And, while I think parents play a crucial role in understanding the digital worlds that their children are participating in, having those conversations, those open conversations, and monitoring their activity, at the same time, they need help. Before we knew about the harms of these platforms, they were able to kind of corner the market in terms of children's socialization, and they've become the center of that. And that pressure is real for parents to allow their children on this platform because right now, if you're not on, you're in the minority. And so, a recent Angus Reid poll of Canadian parents showed that the majority, over 70%, are in favor of some kind of government policy. And I think it would provide parents the ability to say, the people in charge are feeling this isn't safe for you. And I agree. So yes, it is on parents for sure, but they also need help. And I think two things can be true at the same time.
What have you seen, Allison, in the research that you've done on this, or even in your work as a family physician, that concerns you about our youth and their use of smartphones and or social media platforms?
I see kids struggling with their use starting at very young ages. And I routinely see teens, tweens who are spending 5+ hours a day on their phone, five honestly being the low end. And the majority of that is on social media platforms. And when you're using any kind of technology that much, it's displacing other crucial needs that we know are important for kids: physical activity, their sleep, time for boredom, time outside, for real world relationships. And that's not even hitting on the problematic content that they could be seeing online. So I think social media can be a really positive place for kids. It's socialization and access to information. But because of the design of the products, most kids are using it compulsively and to an extent that it is interfering with these other developmental pillars. And this has downstream impacts on their mental and physical health. And physicians are definitely seeing that rise over the years.
When I think about an age-limited restriction on social media platforms, one of the best examples I can think of from when I was a kid is the ratings that were on movies. And again, we have to go back to when you had to go to the video store and rent a VHS tape.
Yeah.
And my parents were very strict. You would never watch a movie beyond your own age limit. But full disclosure, I had a good friend whose parents were a little bit more relaxed in that regard. So I could go to his place and watch the movies I couldn't watch at home. Won't kids just find a way around these age restrictions if we implement them?
Yeah, so I think that is something that is normal and should be expected. Kids are going to test boundaries just like they've done with alcohol, cigarettes. We were all guilty of that. And for sure that's going to happen. I think I try to tell parents we should think about something like this as a layer of protection and not the be all and end all solution. Being involved is still going to be very important. Having those conversations about these products is going to be important. But I think if we think about the way that this could change that cultural norm over the years to come, the kids who are going to be kicked off the platforms, let's say now or in Australia, they're being kicked off. They're kind of bearing the brunt a little bit for the younger kids coming up. But I think as time goes on, a new norm is created where not as many kids, or maybe not the majority of kids, are using these platforms at such young ages. And that makes that FOMO, or that fear of missing out, less. And then less kids are going to actually want to be on the platform. So it's kind of a long-term goal, I think. And we just have to know that, of course, kids are going to be kids and they're going to get around it sometimes. And that's okay too.
And maybe for some parents who are, less aware of the dangers lurking on those platforms, this reinforces to the parents also that, hey, there are things we need to be careful of here.
For sure. We don't even have warning labels on these things yet. We don't have public health campaigns in Canada. So this is just a stepping stone to all of that, I think.
Allison, it's always great to get your perspective on the show. Thank you very much for making time for us.
Thank you, Mike.
Allison Young is a family physician in Kitchener. She's known online as the Smartphone Effect MD, and she is well versed in this issue, following it, seeing children that present in her office with mental health issues, other concerns related to excessive smartphone use. Now, our federal government is moving in the direction of restricting that social media platform access to people under the age of 16. Do you think it'll work? What do you think of the idea? Would love to hear from you on the show. As always, we'll take your calls next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
And when you're using any kind of technology that much, it's displacing other crucial needs that we know are important for kids, time for real world relationships. So I think social media can be a really positive place for kids. But because of the design of the products, most kids are using it compulsively and to an extent that it is interfering with these other developmental pillars.
That is Allison Young. She's a family physician in Kitchener, known online as the Smartphone Effect MD. And just so you know, that online presence as the Smartphone Effect MD evolved out of her practice at her clinic in Kitchener based on the issues that she was seeing young people presenting with in the office, particularly around their mental health. And Allison became very concerned about the amount of screen time, the impact that was having on kids. And here we are today. She's been operating this account for many years. She's been a guest on our show on several occasions. And today, Dr. Young is here following the Liberal convention this past weekend that resulted in a couple of resolutions around social media platforms and AI chatbots. One of those resolutions coming out of the Liberal convention this past weekend calls for a law similar to one passed in Australia late last year that sets a minimum age of 16 for creating social media accounts. And it also puts the onus on companies that run the platforms to prevent underage users from holding accounts. And I think that's a key part of this. Put the onus on the platforms. In other words, you are forcing them to acknowledge the addiction that they have created. This is well documented. They were designed, the phones themselves and the old flashing light we used to have, or how even when our phone is sitting next to us on the table and a new alert comes in, there's a banner on the screen that encourages us. Like, then we know, oh, there's a message. I should go check that message. It's Pavlov's dog all over again, except we're not ringing a bell to get food. We're getting a signal that there's a message there or a social media notification. The companies did this on purpose because they know how we as humans are wired. The second resolution passed by the Liberals at their convention this past weekend calls for anyone under the age of 16 to be banned from accessing all AI chatbots and other potentially harmful forms of AI interaction, which would include ChatGPT. And I don't think I need to remind you, because it is recent enough in our memories, about that terrible tragedy in British Columbia and the school shooting there, and the information that was learned about what the shooter asked ChatGPT about, and why there wasn't intervention there. I'm not certain we will ever get a satisfactory answer to. But those are the two resolutions, and I, for one, am all for them, despite the fact, yes, most kids will find a way around it. I think putting the onus on the platforms themselves to police the age of the people using them is important. And I think this reinforces to all of us, parents, etc., that these are critical issues for us to deal with. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Let's start with Ian, who joins us on the show this morning. Good morning, Ian. What do you think of the idea of restricting access to social media?
Oh, I'm all for it, because I personally am seeing the issues with it, not only from when I was teaching at even college and university level, but also within our own family. We are dealing with a situation right now with a young, family member, and unfortunately, the other half of the family is just kind of letting this happen, and it's concerning, because even some of the YouTube videos that are being watched is giving a false sense of confidence to this person, to the point that, the rest of us are being ignored and even being sort of dictated to as to what we are doing wrong. But I wanted to bring one point up, and you know what I do for a living besides running, my recording studio and music, and that's a huge part of my life. And I think it's something that I hope maybe parents will kind of, take to heart. When I grew up, I started music in 1979, and I lived in the country. There was no internet. There was barely, I don't think, even video games, like, and television was just kind of coming out. And we were lucky to get 2 channels of TV because we were on an antenna system. Our phone was also on a party line with 3 other neighbors. I gravitated to music because it entertained me. I loved learning about it and everything. And I'm basically saying to the parents, when I hear that, there's multiple hours that teenagers are on their phones, if you took those hours and actually got something for them that they really enjoy, that they become passionate about, how much better would they be in discipline, in education, and finding something that they truly love that may eventually be part of a career for them. And I think the parents, we're so wrapped up into our lives of trying to make ends meet, and parents are working, hard. we kind of forgot about the kids. But if we can direct them towards something like this instead of just like scrolling through a Instagram feed, etc., we're going to be way better off. Thanks for your time, Mike.
Thanks for the call, Ian. I appreciate it. Second time this week in back-to-back days, we'll reference Gladwell's 10,000 hours theory, right? You practice something for 10,000 hours, you will become expert in it. And interesting, if I were to take it a step further because of Ian's background in music, and that's what he discovered when he was younger. You see, the thing is, we don't even have to make music anymore. The computer will generate it for us. I'm not saying that's right by any stretch, but it really, look, we need to call these things dumb phones. It's as simple as that because they are sapping the life, the creativity, the inspiration right out of our bones. I really believe that. Saif is next with us on the show this morning. Good morning, Saif.
Saif. Thank you,
Saif,
Mike.
sorry. Good morning.
Good morning. I just would like to say there is another way out of this. These days, children do need phones, right? Now, there is a small problem in that. 3G phones do not allow internet, just allow you to make a phone call and do an SMS texting. No internet. There are those old games. Do you know those old Nokia phones you might have used earlier?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
That is the solution these days. Rather than stopping them from having a phone, let them have a phone with a 3G phone, and a lot of the problem is solved.
So you want less functionality. The kids can have the phone, just don't have the phone be so powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Saif, I appreciate the call. Sorry. My apologies. My apologies. This is the remote work, but he was just about to say because, here's what Saif makes me think of, though. And it was a story that just came up the other day over a meal here with the team. And I'm forgetting the place down east, but it's a rather remote community that has been a landowner there has turned their rather expansive property into a little kind of vacation getaway. It's a beautiful spot surrounded by water, beautiful nature, trails to hike, etc. But because the area is so remote, they don't have internet service of any kind. And they were having the discussion about, do we, pay for the necessary uplinks so that people, when they come here, can still remain, quote unquote, connected. And they thought, well, let's do a 6-month pilot and see how people feel when they come here and they do not get their cell service. They cannot connect to their email for work, whatever. And I think you know where this is going. Overwhelmingly, they were happier without it. They want to go and actually disconnect for the week that they're there or the long weekend that they are there. To Saif's point, I would be inclined. Like I get it, and we went through it. We hung on until our daughter was 15 before we got her a phone. Why do kids even need the phones to make that phone call with? Just because we can. Humans survived for a very long time without carrying a phone in their pocket. We still could, but we've got this idea. The phones have made us this way that we must be available 24 hours a day. Heaven forbid we go to the place where we can make a call instead of having the ability right in our hands. I know I'm sounding like a Luddite and the old guy that I am, but we have been reconditioned. And I'm not so sure I like the conditioning. I don't think many of us had a choice in it. We were conditioned. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. It is that time of our week on the show. Wednesday mornings, immediately following our 10 a.m. update, we turn our eyes to the nation's capital and check in with the Blacklocks reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. Tom Korski is the managing editor there. and he joins us for these weekly chats. Tom, good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Oh, Conestoga College. We've talked about it an awful lot because it's right here in our fine city of Kitchener, Tom. And it sounds like the Commons Immigration Committee is calling out Conestoga College as well.
Do you know how unusual that is for a Commons Committee to name and shame an individual institution in a report? This was a report on abuses in the foreign student system. Unnamed were the last two immigration ministers who approved the system that resulted in, we've done the figures, over 1 million foreign students poured into the country. They were allowed unlimited access to the labor market, cost Canadians jobs, and the entire system was implicated in really profiteering. Let's not use pretty language. While the students themselves, very many foreign students, were resorting to the food bank. And here you have the Immigration Committee, and they did single out Conestoga, and it was pretty harsh, Mike. They described it as an extreme example of the impact of the poor government policy, called Conestoga a case study. Part of this, I have to say, is the result of a very unhappy experience by John Tibbetts, the president in the day, who testified at the Immigration Committee last October. It was not a successful appearance, Mike. He was evasive, did not express contrition, and MPs spent an hour and a half kind of beating him up in committee. But let's be frank. Conestoga, in the day, did have the largest number of foreign students of any college or university in the country, about 41,000 in the heyday. Well, you'll never guess who number two was, University of Toronto. But that's a little bit hot to handle. So I think the implication here is MPs saw an easy out, and they were going to beat up on Conestoga, and it was all President Tibbetts' fault. It's kind of convenient, I have to be frank.
Well, it's also convenient for President Tibbetts to not hear all of those criticisms because he's got more than $600,000 in his ears, that, annual salary he was collecting.
Oh, there's no question, and but there was a lot of co-conspirators in this scam. You know who the victims are. I agree. The victim is not the Conestoga College or President Tibbetts. He did make more than the Prime Minister of Canada. I think the victims are people who, honest, hard-working people, Canadians and foreign, who went to Conestoga to get an education, to have a better life. And what is the value of that degree now, or that certificate, when you go into the workplace and wait a minute, really Conestoga was depicted as a diploma mill. It was harsh. There was, you know what? You know who's to blame for this? I agree. Tibbetts didn't do himself any favors. There were two immigration ministers. One was named Miller, and the other was named Fraser, who put this in place. And Conestoga merely used it. They did the same thing at the University of Toronto, Seneca, University of British Columbia. They were right up there. We could go down the list. York University, lots of foreign students. And I like scapegoating as much as the next guy. But Tibbetts was not the Napoleon of crime and coming. He was not the mastermind.
Conestoga, the convenient. Got that one for sure. Something else that's been a real issue in our neck of the woods, Tom, and clearly elsewhere, is theft of copper wire, etc. We've got a local councillor sounding off about it. We've got an MP from Cambridge calling for federal action. And I guess the Senate of Canada has caught notice as well.
They've had enough. They did just come out with a report. In fact, Senate Transport Communications Committee had extensive hearings on this, and they heard from, this is right across the country, even copper thefts that impacted airports in New Brunswick, military bases, let alone telecom customers. And as everyone knows, and you've reported, the typical prosecution is for petty theft under $5,000. Well, that's a severe frowning in police court, and senators were just upset, and they came up with this report and said, no, you have to go for jailing in these cases. And, in fact, they even cited a Florida law when they were having hearings. Florida passed a law 2 years ago, up to 15 years imprisonment, plus civil damages for all the harm you did in vandalizing telecom networks. So you could get some scrap copper to sell for $6 a pound at the black market recyclers. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this. You know, Mike, this has been around for years. There have been opposition MPs, Conservatives, New Democrats, have tried to pass bills, I mean over a decade, to get on this, and it's never happened. This Senate report will be interesting to see if someone finally does do what everyone agrees should be done.
Absolutely. And you think back of all those efforts in the past going unheeded. And isn't that why we are where we are today? Because this has gone unchecked for so long?
Absolutely. And you're led to believe, in fact, that this is not freelancing. There has to be some organized crime involved. But either way, we can't have yahoos pulling down, fiber cable lines or other telecom infrastructure so they can get $6 a pound from a black market recycler. I mean, this is not Zaire, for the love of Mike. You know, surely we're a G7 country. We should be able to handle this. Come on.
Okay. Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced a cut to the federal excise tax on fuel. He says this is real relief for Canadians. Is it, or is it just temporary relief until we find out the impact on the budget?
Exactly. We're going to find out April 28th. That is when Cabinet is going to table its new figures on the budget year. The deficit last year came in pretty close to $80 billion, like it wasn't even near their target. It's the heaviest overspending outside of COVID overspending periods, deficit periods, in Canadian history. Biggest deficit, $80 billion. They had projected a sharp decline this year. Let's see. But they just did blow another $2.4 billion hole in their deficit. What's my point here? Everyone wants less tax on gas. But don't fool yourself, because if this is financed by borrowed money, that's going to be the most expensive tax break ever, and you will pay and pay and pay with interest on those bonds. There's no magic. April 28th is the day. It won't be dull.
It will not be indeed. We'll keep our eyes on that. April the 28th. Okay, our federal Liberal government is now also a majority, Tom. 5 floor crossings, 3 by-election wins. And according to one senior Liberal, it's a good thing because, gosh, that opposition was frustrating for them.
It was just getting on their nerves, wasn't it? All that constant dissent. You know, it is called question period. It's not called agreement period. And here was no less than Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader, a man named Kevin Lamrose from Winnipeg, who said, it's been so frustrating over the last number of years, I quote him accurately, as you did. He said, you get opposition members and all they do is oppose, right? Correct. That's what their voters wanted. But it's getting tiresome. One thing that's going to be interesting with the majority, thin but working, is it does have the impact of shutting down every ethics probe, every investigation in committee, every subpoena of witnesses, every cross-examination of cabinet, every summons of contractors. And if anyone wants a reminder of what the impact of that has been, the Weed Charity investigation drove a finance minister out of town, Bill Morneau. That's kind of a big deal. There have been contractors, as a result of committee investigations, that saved taxpayers a fortune, who have been banned for life from the bidders list. It has had real impact in real time and real dollars. And that's done now because the opposition does not have the votes. That doesn't mean all investigations stop. It means it gets a lot harder, Mike.
It certainly does. Okay, quickly before I let you go, Tom, I would just love it if you could share some more information about the Net Zero Garage in the Yukon.
Love it. I love everything about this. The Department of Environment called this a model for the nation. That's why we paid attention. It was a model for the nation. The Department of Environment said in 2018 it was going to show that we can get it done, said the Departmental Capital Plan. Well, sad news. It was supposed to take 2 years and cost $750,000. I'm serious, by the way. This is just a garage, like it's a 2,000 square foot garage. It's basically it's a frame with a shed, right? $750,000 2 years. No, it took 7 years and cost $1.8 million. And by the way, the auditors determined. You say, were there no heated garages available for storage in Whitehorse? Well, actually, yes, there were quite a few. Any questions? Okay, good night, everybody. That's what there's no investigations. That's what happens when you don't have the boats anymore.
Just remember, Tom, it ain't easy being green. That's the problem.
Oh, man, but you can sure pay off your speedboat if you get the contract.
You sure can. As always, appreciate the conversations. Thanks for being here, Tom.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski is the managing editor at the Blacklocks Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom in our nation's capital. And you can find more on these stories and other stories that we can't get to in our short chats with Tom online, blacklocks.ca. It is subscription-based, but we pay for quality journalism. I believe in that, and Tom gives us a little sneak preview into the stories that the Blacklocks Reporter is covering and following each Wednesday morning here on our show as we mind Ottawa's business. Okay, we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, it is that time of the day where we like to pause for a moment and issue you the reminder that, not everybody is a jackwagon. Sometimes it might feel like everybody is. They're all conspiring against you, these jackwagons. But let me tell you, I found something right here in Sault Ste. Marie yesterday, and don't you worry, it is a connection that brings us right back home to a community-based organization of which we are very proud, and rightly so. And they went and done something real good last night, even when there were so many reasons not to. They chose to do this and then give us the reminder again today that not everybody is a jackwagon. The heartwarming story is coming up. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. It is that time of the show where we pause for a moment and just bring you a story that'll warm your heart. Even a cold heart like mine gets warmed a little bit with the kind of story that we share each and every day on the show right around 10:20. Just in keeping with the theme of the show, we call this Not Everybody is a Jackwagon, because we call people who do things that annoy us jackwagons, you see, but not everybody is a jackwagon. And this story, I mean, in and of itself, it's a good enough story on the surface, but it gets even better when we get to the twist at the end. So I have posted the picture of this little cutie patootie on our Facebook page this morning. If you have not yet seen it, take a moment, cyber slack today, go to our Facebook page, which you'll find on Facebook under the Mike Farwell Show, and you will see the picture of Jordan. Jordan, this little cutie patootie, was standing right at the glass at GFL Memorial Gardens here in Sault Ste. Marie last night. And she was holding a sign that says, drove 781 kilometers to tell the Rangers I'm officially done chemo. The picture was shared by Jordan's mother, Kelly. Jordan is known as JJ, and she has been battling cancer and undergoing chemo treatments. And Kelly's post on Instagram reads, "So we made the 8+ hour drive to Sault Ste. Marie to surprise the Kitchener Rangers that Jordan is officially done chemo. Thank you, everyone, for also showing JJ love and support. She couldn't have done it without you all standing beside her." Even the Rangers' Instagram account responded with a heart saying JJ is battle built, which of course is what we call this Kitchener Rangers team, battle built for the playoffs and hopefully a nice long run in these playoffs. And along with that picture showing JJ holding her sign, drove 781 kilometers to tell the Rangers I'm officially done chemo, There are multiple pictures of JJ with Kitchener Rangers players after the game last night. And the Instagram feed documenting JJ's journey through chemo shows her with Rangers players, with Cambridge Redhawks players. They've kind of really adopted her and, according to Mom, given her strength throughout this journey through chemotherapy. Here is the best part. Well, I mean, I think the best part is, of course, that JJ is finished with her chemo. That is absolutely the best part of this story. But because she is so well known to the Kitchener Rangers team, and there she was, Mom and JJ had seats right behind the Rangers bench last night. That sign was there for all to see, and it was noticed. And so one of the Rangers coaches said, hey, go ask JJ if she wants to come into the dressing room tonight and read out the starting lineup for the Kitchener Rangers. And so, of course, JJ and Mom Kelly were more than happy to accept that offer. Not only did they drive 781 kilometers, more than 8 hours, to get to Sault Ste. Marie to watch the Rangers win a game. By the way, Kitchener won the game last night 4-3 over the Sioux Greyhounds. But JJ, who has just finished her chemotherapy journey, got noticed in the stands by the Rangers organization and invited into the dressing room to read the starting lineup. I thought it was a great twist to the story, a great nod, some awareness on the part of the Kitchener Rangers. And remember, this is a playoff game. These games have magnitudes, more pressure surrounding them than regular season games. But Kelly and JJ have been fixtures at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, at the Galt Arena Gardens with the Cambridge Redhawks. They travel. When I was talking to the Rangers coaching staff after the game last night, they pointed out that Kelly and JJ are at every game, home and away, clearly, because we do not go further from Kitchener than here in Sault Ste. Marie, and always making the trip some way, somehow, are Kelly and JJ. And last night, for that effort, little JJ, to mark the end of her chemotherapy journey, was granted the opportunity to read the starting lineup for the Kitchener Rangers. I thought it was great. I wanted to share that with you this morning, a little real life, not everybody is a jackwagon story emerging from right here on the road in Sault Ste. Marie. By the way, in case you missed it during our morning sports updates, the Rangers did win that game last night 4-3, and they now have a 3-0 series lead in this Western Conference semifinal over the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. For what it's worth, the other Western Conference semifinal, the Windsor Spitfires, have a 3-0 lead over the Flint Firebirds. In the Eastern Conference, the Ottawa 67s beat the Barrie Colts last night. So Barrie has a 2-1 series lead in that one, but the 67s got some life. And the Brantford Bulldogs and the North Bay Battalion were supposed to play last night, but the rain was so heavy and the flooding was so bad in North Bay that they postponed the game for the safety of North Bay residents. So they're going to play game 4 in that series tonight in North Bay. The Brantford Bulldogs have a 3-0 lead in that series. They could wrap it up tonight. They could have wrapped it up last night had they been able to play, but Mother Nature had other ideas. So it'll be North Bay at home to Brantford tonight. The Bulldogs, the chance to wrap it up. Your Kitchener Rangers, the chance to wrap up this series here in the Sioux tomorrow night for game 4. And of course, you know, this is your home for Kitchener Rangers hockey. So we will have tomorrow night's game for you right here on 570 News Radio. Pre-game coverage will start at 6:30 from GFL Memorial Gardens. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center. Before 11, we're going to check in with Sustainable Waterloo about their upcoming evening of recognition. And right after this update, we're banding together against diabetes. That's coming up on the Mike Farwell Show here on 570 News Radio. It is called Band Against Diabetes, a fundraiser that aims to make diabetes type 1 diabetes type none. And the organizer of this annual event is Christy Miller, who joins our show this morning. Christy, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me more about Band Against Diabetes.
So this is our 5th annual fundraising event. We call it Band Against Diabetes for twofold. Number one, it's a band night. It's being held Saturday, April 25th at the museum, downtown Kitchener. We have 4 amazing bands, a huge silent auction, prizes to be won, late night snacks, and really, the goal, obviously, like you said, is for us is to make type 1, which is an autoimmune disease, type none. And all of the money that we raise from the tickets, from the silent auction, from anything we do in our fundraising year, all goes to our walk page for Breakthrough T1D, which is the artist formerly known as JDRF. It's the rebranding so that, I always say that because people are aware of JDRF and have heard that name and that brand for a very long time, but it is now known as Breakthrough T1D.
You mentioned, Christy, that this is year number 5. Why did you start the fundraiser?
Well, we started the fundraiser really organically. We did the walk for a couple of years, and then just through family conversation and our kind of need to step things up. It was suggested that we try and do something more. And so, the talents of our family members kind of all came together, and my brother-in-law deals with bands and, he's in a band. So we started off really slow and thought, whatever we do, and that's great. And, we've had some really good success over the years. So we just continue on and keep doing it. So It changes a little bit every year, but the reason we started it, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 21 years old, in third year university, no family history, really pretty much out of the blue. Then, fast forward, almost a decade, and then our son was born completely healthy. And a year and a half later, we start to see the signs and symptoms that I know now are signs and symptoms of type 1 diabetes. And then he was also diagnosed. So, it's obviously something that's close to our heart and it's personal, but, it's a good reason for us to advocate. I always think if I can be the face of this for him and for other people that, people don't necessarily want to share their ailments, and, not everyone's okay talking about it in groups of people. I'm getting better at it. But I've kind of taken it on to be the face of it, with the backing of my family and the support of our community.
What's a day in the life of the Miller family like, with mom and son both having type 1 diabetes?
I guess it depends who you ask, but, and anyone who knows anyone with type 1 diabetes, I think the easiest way to put it is just uncertain. Every day is different. Some days are, no matter what you do, things are great and you don't have to deal with highs and lows. I had one of those yesterday and I thought, what have I done differently today that I didn't do the day before? Every day is different, and it is consuming, and it is nonstop. And it's just really unpredictable, to be honest. And even with tech and management, it's still consuming. So this is why we're kind of on this advocacy path and on the education path, because it can also, like most times, it looks like a silent disease to people because you just manage it and you're doing all these calculations and all these things in the background, and people around you don't necessarily really know what it takes, for lack of better words, to survive.
You, as you mentioned, Christy, diagnosed later in life. You were in university. So as you're just kind of getting accustomed to dealing with this as an adult, some years later, your son born with? What's that? What goes through your mind when you get that diagnosis of your own child?
Well, so this is it. He wasn't born with it. Sorry to correct. He was 18 months old. But, and this is kind of like, and for us, this is the education piece because, and this is the rebranding of JDRF because I think the misunderstanding always has been is that this is a disease that you're born with. And if you're born without it, then you won't ever have it. When in fact, the Breakthrough Committee is now saying most of the diagnoses are actually happening in adults. So people 18 plus, I think the stats are, Dr. Lara would know better, but 65 or 70% of people who are being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes are adults. So this is not something, you're either born with it or not. Like it's popping up for people all over the map, all over ages, ranges, genders, all of it. So, for me, I managed my diabetes with finger pricks and auto injections, it looks like an EpiPen, I guess, with insulin in it for, those first years of my life. And then when Oscar was born, it was like new technology was coming out. We had opportunities to try some new things. And I think for me and for our family, that was the catalyst to push us to try something different, to do more. So we got him on an insulin pump actually before I was on an insulin pump. And, the management piece, like I said, we can do better with the tech, but everything is a learning curve. And for a lot of people, it's access to all of these pumps and glucose monitors and CGMs. Not all of this stuff everyone has access to. So if you don't have private benefits, you only get so much from the government. And then the rest is kind of out of pocket, not kind of, but out of pocket. And it is not a small expense. So it's been a catalyst for a lot of things. I think a lot of the changes that we've moved forward with are really with Oscar in mind. So it's pushed us out of our envelope and pushed us to try and do better.
So the Band Night fundraiser, 5th annual Band Against Diabetes, next Saturday, the 25th at the museum in downtown Kitchener. Which bands will we be able to enjoy?
Oh, well, we have the Van Defferens, we have Pony Space, we have, these artists like to change their persona every once in a while. So we have been very lucky that the bands that have played for us have played from us from the beginning. They do it just because they love to play. And there are actually a lot of personal connections, even with band members. So a lot of the Van Defferens are out of Burlington, and the other 3 bands are all actually local guys. The one band is my friends from high school, which is pretty cool. 25 years, I'm aging myself, but 25 years later. And yeah, it's a great night. Lots of support and there's a real community vibe. And I just say to people, like, I can teach you as much as I can teach you. I'm happy to educate, but also it's a good reason to get out for the night. To support something that's like grassroots and organic. Yeah. And what can you do for $50 anymore, Mike Farwell? But to get 4 bands and prizes and some eats, I think that's a pretty good deal for a night out.
I think it's a great deal. And I'm glad you brought that up, right? Even if you don't have a connection to type 1 diabetes, here's an opportunity just to enjoy a night out at a very reasonable price, 4 bands, some food, some prizes at the museum in downtown Kitchener. And while you're there, of course, you are supporting this great cause. How can we get tickets, Christy?
Absolutely. So there's a couple ways. The biggest way that we connect with people still is through social media. So we're on Instagram, literally at Band Against Diabetes. You will see a picture of myself and our son from last year's event. I think that's our icon. You can DM us through there, or you can send us an email, also bandagainstdiabetes@gmail.com.
bandagainstdiabetes@gmail.com. Check out the Instagram, Band Against Diabetes. Over the first 4 years of doing this, how much have you raised so far?
We have raised, I think, just over $130,000. Like I said, we've been really fortunate. We went through a couple of years of COVID and a couple lulls, but I think as long as we are out there and doing something and having a voice for this disease, then we're happy to do it. 130 over 4 years. Last year, we were just shy of $50,000. So that's our goal for this year.
Absolutely amazing. I wish you the best band night ever next Saturday, Christy. And thanks very much for joining the show this morning.
Thank you always for having us. And thank you for all the community work you do too.
It's an absolute pleasure. We do it for the right reasons. It's just there's that connection. And I love that you're so involved and putting yourself forward to spread the word about this. Well done. And we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Christy Miller joins us. She is the face behind Band Against Diabetes for herself, for her son Oscar, and for you to have a great night out for just $50 next Saturday night, the 25th, at the museum in downtown Kitchener for bands, prizes, some food, and you're helping raise money for the fight against type 1 diabetes. Let's make type 1 type none. Look up Band Against Diabetes on Instagram or send an email, bandagainstdiabetes@gmail.com. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Sustainable Waterloo Region is preparing to recognize the big achievements in sustainability across our community. Their annual Evening of Recognition happens 2 weeks from today. And joining us to talk more about the work they do and the recognition night coming up is Tova Davidson, the Executive Director at Sustainable Waterloo Region. Tova, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. How about yourself?
Oh, always very, very good. It's the best month, the most wonderful time of the year.
It is because, of course, we celebrate Earth Day and we prepare for Evening of Recognition. I'm guessing those are two of the reasons it's the best month.
It's also Earth Month. Did you know
There you
that
go.
it's Earth Month? So it's like, it's my month. I'm so happy.
What makes Earth Month so important to Sustainable Waterloo Region?
You know, Earth Month is the time of year when people, because it's spring, it feels like the earth is waking back up. It feels like we're all getting back out and connecting to nature, starting to see the importance of caring for this incredible planet that we live on. Even with the astronauts just coming back from the moon mission, the idea of like looking back at this incredible place that we all get to call home and wanting to care for it. And so April is a time when people start to reinvigorate, businesses are really active, communities are starting to come out and get together again. And so to remind us all that there is some really beautiful, joyous ways that we can integrate sustainability and care for the earth. And so that's why we always have our Evening of Recognition in April.
What kind of work does Sustainable Waterloo Region do in our community, Tova?
Yeah, we are a local social enterprise nonprofit. It means we run like a business. We charge fees for our services, but we sustain ourselves. So we don't rely on government or municipal funding. And we work at building a clean, resilient economy, both at individual business scale, across entire sectors, which is something that's new since the last time we talked to you, and whole communities. And actually, in the past few years, we've had a bit of a shift that we support a wider region of your listening area. So we're not just Waterloo Region anymore. We actually serve Guelph, Wellington, Perth, Oxford, some work into Dufferin, a little bit up into Grey, and sort of trying to bring some of the benefits of this to more and more people across Southwestern Ontario.
You talk about those sectors that you are involved in. Have you added more then?
Yes. So we have a dedicated partnership with Explore Waterloo Region, where we are doing whole event sustainability. So, for example, we supported Call of Duty when it came esports to figure out how do we make that as close to a sustainable event as we can. We also had another full net zero conference that we helped to run with them last year. We also have incredible work that happens with the building and development sector in a key partnership with the Grand Valley Construction Association. So we have a new program called Frameworks, which is actually designed for the building and development sector by them and for them, to allow us to help to make the transition to clean energy systems easier for everybody in the sector, because we know that the demand is growing and the regulations are projected to change in code, for example, in 2030, national code. And so to support that sector to be able to make that transition more easily.
What happens at the evening of recognition on the 29th?
So the evening of recognition, we have a lot of people come together, 300, 350, 400 people or so come to this event. So it's a big one and it's free because we want everyone to come. We want this to be a place where the whole community feels they can come and learn what's going on, network, get to know the people making that kind of change. We have lots of networking. There's a bit of food. It's not a full dinner, but there's food. Certainly, always the best way to connect with people is over a meal. And then we actually do take the time to recognize what's happened in the community and to recognize those that have done exceptional things within the network and within the communities that we serve. And this year, it's going to be a little different. I'm going to talk a bit about what we did in our existing programs, but our theme this year is scaling up, scaling wide, scaling deep. So I'm going to be talking about all the different ways that we've innovated and scaled and tried to support more and more people and more organizations.
Why is it important for us to take this time, Tova, to hand out these awards, to recognize these businesses and organizations that are following through on sustainable practices?
So I think what it does when we start to look at them, because they're not all, as people think of, green companies. It can actually be one of our awards is bigger than an individual organization. Actually, I think 2 or 3 of them are. So like, how do we actually normalize that this is a smart way of running our businesses? I was lucky enough to present for a group of entrepreneurs yesterday at the SDG Idea Factory. And we were talking about how really the work of sustainable businesses and sustainable communities is being efficient and being practical and being conscious about how we're using energy or water, how much we waste, how do we reduce the amount we waste, how do we reduce the costs around those kinds of things. And so it helps to normalize this, that it is actually a really smart way to do business, not a good to do if you can, because it actually can be of great business benefit.
What makes it a smart way to do business? What are the benefits?
So it can be things like you reduce your operating costs. You know, better energy systems means reduced operating costs. You can attract talent. You can stand out from RFPs. I saw a quote today in a news article that I put on LinkedIn that said that 80% of companies are now asking their suppliers for what are they doing in the world of sustainability. So if you're doing nothing, how do you win those bids? It can actually drive innovation in a company because what it says is that the business as usual way of doing something isn't sustainable. So if you're deeply committed to being more efficient in your use of energy and your use of water and how much you waste, you actually innovate in your business, not just in those practices, but in all parts of your practices. It can be good branding, good marketing. There's all kinds of ways that it actually is a really good business decision.
And when you start talking about even in cold, calculated ways, if you will, you wouldn't talk about them that way, but I might. You're looking at the numbers here and you're saying this can improve your bottom line.
Yes, 100%. We know that if for businesses, for sectors, for whole communities, if they're doing it just because they think it's the right thing to do, at some point, some other crisis is going to come up. But if they actually deeply understand the numbers, they look at examples of like, oh, I'm spending $5,000 a month on heating, but if I do these 5 things, I can get that number down to $1,000 a month on heating. That's a logical thing to do as a business owner. And that's really what we're looking for, is the ways that we can help them do that. And then in the evening of recognition, we celebrate the really interesting things that people have done or the great partnerships that have moved forward, all of that kind of thing.
Every time we do that evening of recognition and celebrate those organizations that are doing things so well, I'm sure it inspires others. So let's make sure that after the 29th, after those awards are handed out, we check back in and learn about some of these award winners on the show. Can we make a deal on that?
I would love that. Get them some profile and hear from them. Why did they do it and where their benefit comes from?
Absolutely. I look forward to those conversations as I look forward to the next conversation with you and maybe even like we did last weekend, seeing each other in person.
I would love that. And I will bring you a big jar of really great candy, Mike.
Perfect. The sooner the better then, Tova. Let's make sure we connect. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me. Have a really beautiful rest of your day.
Tova Davidson is the executive director at Sustainable Waterloo Region, the annual Evening of Recognition, 2 weeks today on the 29th. And we'll follow up with those award winners and profile them here on the show in the weeks ahead. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
The Whiz Kids had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter, the Barber and the Nuke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey and the Duke.
Yeah, we are talking baseball here on the Mike Farwell Show every Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. And the best way to talk baseball is with the one, the only Blue Jay Hunter, who joins us for these weekly chats about, of course, the Blue Jays. Ian Hunter back in the studios in Kitchener as we are here remotely in Sault Ste. Marie. Ian, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. We're keeping your studio at a balmy 22 degrees. I hope that's the right temperature for you.
You know, this is why it's good to have people like you in our building, because you're always looking at it. Like, you follow it down to the tenth of a degree to ensure that I am in a good place when I get back next week. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Glad to help out. This is what I'm not the water boy. I am the temperature checker. That's my official position on the team, I guess.
And you're fulfilling it very well. There's lots to talk about with this Blue Jays team right now, not the least of which is the extended list of injuries, which we'll get to. And reminder to you, if you want to talk some Blue Jays baseball with Blue Jay Hunter, you know how you can do that, right? Just give us a call at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I just want to start, Ian, with last night, because the Blue Jays bats finally came alive. We plated some runs in the top of the ninth, top of the ninth, and everything was looking good until we handed the ball to Jeff Hoffman. Like, how are we worried yet about our closer's abilities?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty ugly there. It almost veered into hate watch territory, because it did seem like, this is a slow moving car crash, and we've seen this movie before from Jeff Hoffman, where he tends to lose control. He had an especially bad game last year. I don't know if you remember, against the Dodgers in LA, where he walked 5 guys, had the bases loaded, Mason Fluharty came in and closed the game out. He was taken out of the game by John Schneider. And similarly last night, again, with the bases loaded, Schneider had to go to Louis Varland to kind of clean up that game, because it was looking like just Hoffman could not find the strike zone. But oddly enough, I would say overall Hoffman's having an okay year. Like, he's still striking out about 40% of the batters that he's facing this season. He had a bit of a rough patch a few weeks ago in Chicago with that one game where they let it slip away. But he kind of got nickeled and dimed in that game. Overall, I would say his results have been decent. It was just last night was really ugly. Probably one of the ugliest outings we've seen from him as a Blue Jay. I don't think that means his job as a closer is in jeopardy, but I think it kind of raised a few eyebrows and maybe convinced a few more people to think, what if we, like this Louis Varland guy, he's looking pretty solid right now. He has yet to give up an earned run this season. Basically, from the time he was acquired by the Blue Jays at last year's trade deadline, he's been really solid. He was the Iron Man for the Jays in the playoffs last season. So I can definitely see why people would say, hey, let's go with Varland over Hoffman here. But I think there have to be a few more car crashes for John Schneider to consider taking Hoffman out of the closer position.
I suppose on the plus side, it was that come from behind ninth that at least got the Jays into the extra innings where they were able to pull out the victory. Thank you, Miles Straw.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of people saying on X last night that was a quintessential 2025 Blue Jays win, where, you know, there were a few big swings. They had homers from Jimenez and Varsho, but for the most part, it was a lot of bat on ball, like a lot of singles, people taking extra bases, and yeah, Miles Straw coming up with a huge hit at the end of the game, and even Davis Schneider in the late innings to kind of set that up. And you had Vladdy coming up with the go ahead double in the 10th inning. So a lot of contributions up and down the lineup. It was just unfortunate. It took about 8 innings for the bats to wake up, because right after Kevin Gausman gave up that 3-run home run, I think a lot of fans were kind of maybe had turned the television off, just because the offense has really not pulled their weight as of late. But, you know, better late than never. They came through definitely with 3 runs in the 9th and 3 in the 10th. And although it looked kind of messy at times, they ended up getting it done.
We're going to come back to Davis Schneider in a moment, but one of the things that I've noticed, it wasn't too long ago, and I know this is all very early returns here. We are mid-April, you know, a fraction of the way through the 162 game season, but we were talking about the Blue Jays kind of floundering in that second week of the season after a very good start, and the New York Yankees starting like a house on fire. The Yankees were 8-2, but don't look now. The Yankees are only 9-8, which means things are not exactly going well for the Pinstripes either. And the division is not by any stretch out of the reach of the Blue Jays right now.
Yeah, I guess that's the one fortunate thing, is that this early in the season, no one's really running away with it. I think it wasn't last year, but it was 2 seasons ago, where the Yankees they got out to such a hot start that there was almost no way that anybody could have caught them for the division lead, even by the end of May. But there is... Yeah, like the Tampa Bay Rays. I honestly don't look at the standings very much, Mike, in the month of April, but the Tampa Bay Rays at 9-7 are leading the American League East right now, which I did not have on my bingo card. But fortunately, you know, the Jays are only two games back of the Rays. Like, I don't want it to be an excuse for the Jays. They've been decimated by injuries, a lot of long-term injuries as well. So no team is ever going to go through a season without injuries, but the Jays it seems like every 2 or 3 days, you know, the manager comes out and says, player X is going on the IL. And then the next day, player I is going on the IL. It's like, what is happening next? So luckily they haven't, knock on wood, heard that in a couple days. They do have some players on the mend coming back. We'll probably talk about them later, but someone like Trey Savage is probably going to be reinserted into the starting rotation next week. So slowly but surely, they're getting their reinforcements. But I think at this point in the season, you just want them to tread water until their big guys get back.
I will take my cue from you and not pay as much attention to the standings. I sometimes can't help myself, but that's really a good way to go when we're talking about a season that is so long. And clearly, as you've just alluded to, let's get into it more. The story of this Blue Jays season so far has been injuries, right? Bieber, Savage to get things started, Barrios, Santander, not that we really expected much after last year, and he was on the shelf even before the season began. But then we get into the season, Alejandro Kirk, and since you and I last talked, Ian, I mean, how fluky is it fouling a ball off your foot and there goes your big toe?
Yeah, I mean, that's just, again, what else is going to happen to this 2026 Blue Jays team when you think, who is the next most valuable player that the Blue Jays can ill afford to lose? And then lo and behold, George Springer fouls a ball off of his toe and he fractured it. I've never fractured a toe. I don't know what the rehab process of that is like. But it sounds like we may see George, if all things go well, we could see him back with the Blue Jays within maybe 10 to 15 days. It's not going to be the minimum of 10 days, I would assume, probably just because they want to give him a little more time. I think even George Springer said, you know, normally if this were the end of the season and they were in a playoff race, he would push through it. And Lord knows he pushed through a ton of injuries last year that we probably didn't even hear about, right? Like there were so many things that George Springer was dealing with. But this early in the season, you don't want to compromise arguably one of your best hitters and potentially have him gone for longer than needed. So I think they're going to take it careful with him. And again, it's going to require other guys in the lineup picking up slack, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Dalton Varsho. I'm starting to lose count of like how many established veterans they can count on because they seem to be dropping like flies. But this is probably an opportunity for someone like a Davis Schneider, for example, to kind of step up, take the reins, and become an everyday player here with their contributions.
Ian Hunter is the one and only Blue Jay Hunter. He joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 here on the show to talk some Blue Jays baseball, and you are welcome to be a part of the conversation as we continue this morning on the Mike Farwell Show. Stay with us on 570 News Radio. Every Wednesday morning, 11 a.m., the one, the only Blue Jay Hunter joins us on the show to talk about Blue Jays baseball. Ian Hunter in studio. Your phone calls and questions about the Blue Jays, welcome. Who better to answer them than Blue Jay Hunter? Ian Hunter, 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. His name's come up a couple of times already, and Ian, you just mentioned him before the break, but let's do a deeper dive into Davis Schneider, a player that you think should be an everyday player for the Toronto Blue Jays. How do you make that case?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wrote about that last week, that I feel like he's making John Schneider's job. It should be easy. I feel like Davis Schneider should be in the lineup for the Blue Jays every day. It's just, he seems to be at the center of everything that's going right for the offense when everything is clicking. Like we saw him be a catalyst last night, coming up with that double, hitting a double off of the Brewers closer. That moves Miles Straw to third base, and Straw eventually scored. Schneider also scored the go-ahead run for the game. He's got great plate discipline. You know, he's a bit of a smaller guy, so it's tougher to get those called strikes against him, but that seems to work in favor for him. And then a few weeks ago, you know, he picked up on a ball that was kind of thrown in the dirt to second base and scored the go-ahead run against that in that afternoon game against the Dodgers last week. So he's just doing everything right, and it's like he's in competition basically with Jesus Sanchez, the left-handed hitter for the Blue Jays. You know, I know Davis Schneider is kind of typically, he was thought of as a lefty masher, but the last couple of years he's kind of hit both left and right-handed pitchers equally. So that's why I feel like he should be in the lineup every day. The funny thing is he's only started 6 of the 16 games for the Blue Jays, but I just feel like he is making a case, especially with George Springer on the IL right now and so many guys missing, that, you know, he's not going to be the Blue Jays cleanup hitter, but I think he is a spark that could be, you know, in the middle to the bottom of the order that tends to get a lot of these rallies started.
And of course, even if baseball didn't work out for Davis Schneider, it seems as though he's got a career in acting, doesn't he?
Yeah, I've seen that. Have you seen that?
It's pretty good. He and Barger, yeah.
Yeah, the commercial is very, I think they were going for like The Office. It was very kind of Office-esque. I was also going to say maybe he has a future in police enforcement as well, because he kind of has that cop look to him with that mustache, doesn't he? So
he does, yep.
And you know, he's been a really fun story for the Jays too. Like he came in like a house on fire during his big league debut in 2023. And it's been up and down. I don't think he's not going to be a guy who hits 40 home runs, but I think he's going to be, when all is said and done, Davis Schneider's going to be like one of these cult heroes in Blue Jays history. And you can see at times, definitely, he's got the talent, right? Like he can take a walk. He's got the power. He runs the bases really well, and he's not a liability defensively. So I think, especially when you've got a lot of players missing, I feel like that's someone who probably should be in the lineup every day.
Yeah, cult hero in Blue Jays history. Maybe also a status for Tyler Heineman, who has established a Blue Jays record. I love the piece you wrote at Blue Jays Nation about that. Tell us more about the record.
So it's a bit of a not exactly the most proud thing in life, but yeah, Tyler Heineman now leads all Blue Jays position players with 6 pitching appearances. And, you know, typically when you see a position player on the mound, things have gone totally lopsided, either in favor of the Blue Jays or against them. And Tyler Heineman racked up a few pitching appearances already in this season. So, yeah, he leads all position players with 6 now. I believe his overall ERA is something like 20. So, you know, he's not exactly a shutdown reliever, but simply it's a guy who gets in there when John Schneider needs someone to stop the bleeding. And it's a bit of comic relief. I think we have a lot of baseball purists who hate to see position players on the mound. I don't know how you feel about it, Mike, but when it's like a 15-1 game, I just kind of say to myself, why not? Like, we need a laugh here. So congrats to Tyler Heineman, I guess.
No, Ian, there's no crying in baseball, and there's no position players on the mound in baseball, okay? Stop this.
Fair
I don't
enough.
care. It's dumb. I hate it. Stop. If you don't want to, quote unquote, waste pitchers, don't play so bad. Stop it.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think at some point you've got to like preserve your bullpen, especially for the Blue Jays who have just sustained so many pitching and position player injuries. I think you throw a guy out there and you're like, okay, just soak up some innings. Like, this is ugly no matter what. So let's just get this thing over with and fast forward to tomorrow.
I suppose so. I'm not a fan, but I'll leave that one aside because it was in this past week that, like when we talked a week ago, the Blue Jays were mired in the muck and things weren't getting any better because they were up against the Dodgers, who looked very much like the World Series champs from last year, and the Blue Jays were looking anything but the World Series runners-up. However, get a win in the final game of that series, and it felt like even despite how early in the season it is, it felt like that was a pressure valve being released when the Jays finished off that series with a win over the Dodgers.
Yeah, absolutely it did. It was, I think the fan base breathed a collective sigh of relief after that win last Wednesday. And probably same could be said last night. Like, it was just, things had been brewing. You saw John Schneider got ejected from a game earlier in the series. So tensions were boiling on the Blue Jays side. And it was kind of disappointing, right? Because I think going into that series, everyone thought it would be a World Series rematch, and the Blue Jays would be out for blood to kind of get their revenge, but they were basically a shell of that former team, right? Especially considering all the injuries that they sustained. But that team showed up in that series finale, and they truly grinded out a win. Like, I mean, it wasn't pretty early in that game, but they certainly finished it off. And like similar fashion last night, you know that the talent is there. It just feels like this offense is still sputtering. They really haven't hit their stride yet. You know, Vladdy has had some big hits, but I think I saw last night that a Blue Jays hitter has not hit a home run yet this season with a runner in scoring position, which is wild to say this deep into the season so far. But I think it's just a matter of time before things start to turn around for this team.
Runners in scoring position has been a bit of an Achilles heel early on for these Jays.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, runners in scoring position, I think it ebbs and flows throughout the season. Right now, it's abysmal for this team. Like, I forget the other stat too. They were just abhorrent with the bases hitting with the bases loaded. They were like 1 for 27 or something to that effect, which you would think just by the matter of luck they would fluke their way into a hit. But, you know, Lady Luck has not been on their side, and they've had some guys scuffling as of late. And I'm just kind of flashback like April. I'd have to look back, Mike, and I'll report back next week. But I feel like April traditionally has not been friendly to the Toronto Blue Jays. And that could be a competition thing. Maybe it's because their front-loaded schedule, they tend to face a lot of interdivisional opponents. Or, maybe it's the cold weather. They're on the road in all of these like northern cities, and that causes offense to sputter. I don't know what it is, but I feel like April is just not traditionally a good month for this Blue Jays team. So I'm going to do some digging, and I'm going to report back next week to see if I can find some evidence of that.
We will look forward to that, as we do look forward to these conversations every Wednesday morning on the show. Ian, thanks again for being here today.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you next week.
Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter, joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Well, following on the heels of our weekly Blue Jay chat with Blue Jay Hunter, why not stick with the theme a little while longer and talk about more baseball? But this time we're bringing it right back home to Kitchener Minor Baseball and the upcoming 5th season of Challenger Baseball, which is a baseball program that Kitchener Minor Baseball offers. Kathy Lepar is the program coordinator for Challenger Baseball and joins us to talk more about it. Kathy, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great as well. Thanks for asking.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Challenger Baseball coming into its 5th season. What is Challenger Baseball?
Well, Challenger Baseball is a program that was designed to assist children or kids or adults, young adults, with physical and cognitive disabilities. So it's a program designed for them where they can learn the sport of baseball, play the game, and in a space that is accessible and comfortable for them.
What does a game of Challenger Baseball look like?
So during one of our sessions, we have a warm-up session. We have a session included where you learn different skills, whether it be fielding ground balls, pop flies, catching, hitting. There's a whole bunch of different skills and stations set up for the kids to participate in. And then at the end is everyone's favorite, where half of the team goes into the field to field, and the other half has a turn at batting. So some of the kids like to hit off the tees. Some of the kids like to be pitched to. So it's a variety of, different options that they have. This one is a little bit different from baseball. We don't keep score. We don't have outs. It's just learn and play. And there is opportunities to play against other leagues, and there is tournaments set up throughout the summer, but we're not quite there just yet.
How did Challenger Baseball get started here in the region?
It was pretty much someone had asked me from Kitchener Minor Baseball back 5 years ago if I'd be interested in running such a thing like this. And of course, this is near and dear to my heart. So of course I said yes, and kind of just started off with 9 athletes, and it's blossomed over the years. We're currently sitting at 28 right now. But again, registration has only been open for a few short weeks, and we haven't done too many promotional events just yet. But the program sits around 35 to 40 athletes right now, give or take, in the community. And so I've been the program lead, and then it wouldn't be possible without our coaches, our volunteers, our buddies, the families, and the athletes themselves, for sure, and the great community leaders like yourself that support this program each and every year.
What makes this so near and dear to your heart, Kathy?
My nephew has autism, so I grew up, watching him with the different struggles. And then the first year that I operated this program here, I had different, glasses on, let's just say, where I noticed a variety of obstacles that, children with mobility devices would have. We have quite a few children that have the AFOs, or the different assistants to use for walking. There's a lot of our diamonds, our pathways things in the city, and not just our city, all in the world, the community, that are very challenging for people that especially use mobility devices. So we have quite a few athletes now that have wheelchairs, walkers, you name it, that some of the diamonds just really aren't accessible for them. So, what opened my eyes was to try and expand and see different things where we could make it accessible for everyone. So again, it started with my nephew and then some of the kids that signed up for our program. I realized the different obstacles and challenges they had. So I wanted to try and make something that would be accessible for them as well.
Given those challenges, Kathy, where are we able to play this brand of baseball in the region?
So for this season, we are going to continue playing at Crosby Park, or Crosby Diamond, which is 85 Crosby Drive, just in the Stanley Park area of Kitchener. But we are well underway in getting our very own accessible diamond, which we spoke about last year. The City of Kitchener has been a huge, huge support to us, along with several other donors and contributors. Toyota being another main supporter in our fundraising activities here. But we are going to be playing at Crosby Park again this season. It is the most accessible diamond that we have found that works for everyone. The only challenge being on the super hot days like we had last summer, it's very, very hot. And the washroom facilities are just the portalets, so it makes it a little bit challenging. So we have partnered with Kids Ability this year and with the Yard Athletics Center. So if it is a very hot day or if it's raining, we're going to cut back on the amount of cancellations we might have, where we can move to an indoor accessible location that we could use. So
the volunteers that help to make this program run, Kathy, I've met several over the years, including some of our Kitchener Panthers who come out and support this program. What do volunteers mean to Challenger Baseball?
Volunteers is the bread and butter of this organization for sure. The CBL Kitchener Panthers are, once again, they've partnered with us this year. The amount of volunteers and buddies that we get, it's just, I can't say enough how much they're appreciated. The program would not run without them for sure. The young children that come out to play with kids their own age is rewarding. The volunteers, it's definitely necessary. This is a volunteer-run program. We keep the costs low so that the athletes don't have to expend a lot of money when they already have so many other expenses themselves. But yeah, the volunteers, it's definitely something that we always need. Coaches, buddies, volunteers, you name it, we're accepting whoever. And the nice thing is, for those young high school students looking for volunteer hours, we can sign off on those as well. So if you're interested in volunteering, please do so. You're more than welcome.
When you're out on the baseball diamond watching these kids take part in this game and being able to enjoy this experience, what goes through your mind as you watch Challenger Baseball?
I get a lot of goosebumps, that's for sure. Just to see these kids overcome some of the challenges that they have, it's like nothing else. I remember the very first season, I've shared this story many times, the one little girl, her mom, I looked over at her and she was in tears. And I said, "Oh my God, are you okay? What happened?" And she said, "I'm just watching my daughter run the bases and she just learned how to walk 6 months ago." So stories like that is why I volunteer my time with this program. It's just so rewarding to see the smiles on the kids' faces. Another young girl, she just desperately wanted to hit a home run. She hit a home run. Other kids, they just, want to hit a ball or catch a ball or make a new friend. And this is a program where they can be calm, they can feel included, and it's so lovely to see the kids smiling, laughing, exploring at their own pace. It's so heartwarming.
How can people get involved? We've been talking about the program at some length, and the 5th season is coming up. You mentioned that the numbers are starting to come in, but you haven't done much promotion yet. Anybody that's listening that has someone in their life that would benefit from Challenger Baseball? How can they find out more and get themselves signed up?
Well, there's information available on the Kitchener Minor Baseball website. There is a Try It Day coming up. We always have a Try It Day for those that aren't just sure what we're all about. It's going to be on Sunday, April 26th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. at the Yard Athletics at 777 Lawrence Avenue in Cambridge. And this event is just free for all. Whoever would like to come, we're going to have different stations set up so they can just check out our program, see what we're all about. There'll be lots of people there, myself, and a lot of volunteers as well. If you have questions, we're going to have some posters and flyers and different things set up to show what we've done in the other years and the things that are coming ahead. And then at the end of 5 o'clock, the CBL Panthers that are in Canada right now will be doing a meet and greet with anyone that wants to meet them at the Yard. So, yeah, the Panthers have been a huge supporter. And one other little thing I'd like to mention is we are having a Challenger Baseball Day at the Panthers on Sunday, May 31st. So all the Challenger athletes will be invited to the Panther game. They can run the bases, meet and greet with the players, and then we usually have a few of them throwing out the first pitch. So, yeah, it's been great. But the Try It Day would be the next thing to do. Check out the website, KitchenerMinorBaseball.com. My email is on there, and there's a button that you could select to contact me for further information. And yeah, we would love to have whoever would like to join us. The more, the merrier.
It certainly is a terrific way for kids to get involved. This is so inclusive. It's always been a lot of fun when I get invited out to be a part of these games, and I appreciate you including me in that, Kathy. It's a fantastic program. Remind us again what day the Try It Day is.
Try It Day is Sunday, April 23rd, 3:30 to 5 p.m. at the Yard Athletics, 777 Lawrence Avenue in Cambridge. And this facility is accessible for all. So come one, come all. And Mike, you will definitely be invited out this year as well. We had some generous sponsorships this year come through. So we've been able to get some new adaptive equipment. One of the things we have is called an Overcomer, which is an assistant to kids with mobility devices or wheelchairs, where they can hit off a tee. So it's a pretty cool tool that we have just been gifted with our fundraising. So I can't wait for you to check it out.
I can't wait to see it. And I just want to confirm on that date, April 26th.
Yeah, it's
26th, Sunday, April 26th. Good. And that's at the Yard. That's the Try It Day. And if you want more information, KitchenerMinorBaseball.ca/Challenger will give you more information about this wonderful program that we run through Kitchener Minor Baseball and that Kathy is the coordinator for. Keep up the great work, Kathy. I look forward to seeing you on the diamond this year. And thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you so much, Mike. And thanks always for your support.
Always happy to be here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
You as well. Bye.
Kathy Lepar is the program coordinator of Challenger Baseball. It is inclusive in every sense of the word through Kitchener Minor Baseball. The Try It Day comes up a week Sunday on April the 26th, and you can get details at KitchenerMinorBaseball.ca/Challenger. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Well, it's not every day that Elmira lands a world premiere, but that is the case with the Elmira Theatre, which has landed the world premiere of A Delicate Art, which will hit the stage starting this Friday, the 17th, running through the 26th, which is a week Sunday. Its director and playwright is Michael Grant, who joins us for a conversation. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for making the time. Tell me a little bit more about A Delicate Art.
Well, A Delicate Art started out as a way to poke fun at a friend, and it morphed from that to a story about grief. Watching my mother-in-law go through the process of losing a partner, and of course it's a sad occurrence. But along the way, there's a lot of interesting, funny things that happen along the way, and I thought I would try to weave a story about grief, but in a comical way. So that's kind of the premise. It's two ladies in a diner, an empty diner, and a suave, debonair man walks in and sweeps them off their feet, and the story just goes from there.
You mentioned it was a way, or it started as poking fun at a friend. What do you mean by that?
Well, I have a friend named Bert, and of course, in a conversation with a mutual friend, he said, said Alberto, and I said, oh yeah. He said that's his full name, but he hates being called that. And if you knew the relationship I had with Bert, I went, oh really? Well, that's interesting. I'm going to file that away. So of course, the character in the play is called Alberto.
So is that where your inspiration often comes from, Michael, when you are putting something together for the stage? Do you draw on personal or life experience?
Oh, definitely. Every story that I've written, this is my 7th full-length play, and there's always, you can pick out any page, and there's probably some story behind it of my life, or somebody I know, or an experience. I was told many years ago, write about what you know, so that's what I try to do, is just write from my experiences, my perspective.
Do you, as a writer, discipline yourself to try to write every day a certain amount? How do you approach the craft?
Yes and no. I'm getting better at that. It used to be when I was inspired. And my first play that I wrote many years ago, it took me, I think, 4 years to write. And then by the time I got to my 4th one, I wrote the first draft in 3 months. For me, I enjoy that. Like, a lot of people sit down at the end of the day and relax and watch TV. I'll sit down, and my wife will sit down and read a book, and I'll sit down on a typewriter and start writing. I prefer to write a story than watch somebody else's story. So, yeah, it's just something I try to do every night that I'm free. I'll sit down and write.
We had the chance to chat in the past about one of your previous works called Forever Love, which went on to win a number of awards. Yeah, at the Western Ontario Drama League Festival. What does recognition like that mean to you?
That's great. It is a nice feather in my cap, but really for me, it's about exposure of the script, right? We go to that festival, and now you've got probably 5 or 6 different theater groups at that festival watching it. And that's hopefully going to generate interest in the script for further productions down the road. And that's really, for my personal, selfish reasons, that's why I always like to put my plays in festival if I can, just to get that exposure. Now, this one isn't in festival, but by all means, I'm reaching out to different theater groups and inviting them to come see it this way.
Tell me a little more about the Elmira Theater Company.
Oh, what a special group! I could talk about them all day, Mike. You know what? We joke that we're just a big group of friends that every once in a while put on a play. It really is, you hear the term family and that, and it really is a family. It's just a wonderful group that they're very supportive. In many groups that I've worked with in the past, there'll be different groups. Well, I'm working with, they'll split off and there'll be little ivory towers, I guess you could say. Where this group, it's all for one and one for all. Every play, everybody's involved and everybody's contributing, and we're all one big happy family. And then, even people that haven't worked particularly on this script will be there for our dress rehearsal tomorrow night supporting us, and then we'll be celebrating together afterwards. So, no, it's a real massive team effort.
You shared the story of how the character of Alberto came to be in this play, and you will be portraying Alberto.
Yes.
Is this a case of art imitating life, Michael?
No, this is a case of a series of unfortunate events, and I had to step into the role. Never in a million years. Never in a million years would I have cast myself as Alberto, but I know it sounds really arrogant when you say, "Oh, he wrote it, directed, now he's starring in it," and that's by no means the case. It was a necessary evil that I've stepped into it, and the other actors, it's funny, I'm the one who wrote it, but the other actors are really supporting me and helping me learn the lines because, as I say, the character is so unlike me that I'm having a hard time relating to them. So, but we're getting there. We're making a huge progress. Last night's rehearsal was fantastic. So I think we'll have a great show that everybody will, I think, find something that they can relate to in it.
I have no doubt that you'll have it nailed by the time the curtain rises on Friday evening at 7:30. How can people get tickets, Michael?
Center in the Square box office, you can go to elmiratheater.com and you can follow the link. Tickets are selling fast. Many of the nights are on the verge of being sold out, so I encourage to get there soon.
Congrats on another success. I already can feel that it's going to be, and I really appreciate you making time for the show today. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it, Mike. Take care.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Michael Grant is an actor. He is a playwright. He has written A Delicate Art, and it stages at the Elmira Theater starting on Friday. elmiratheater.com, the website for details and to get those tickets, which the link will direct you to where you can pick them up. elmiratheater.com. I am going to direct you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then here is your direction as well. Do you take direction well? Make a phone call. Let's start a conversation. Your Talkback Hour is coming up with open phone lines for you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Well, I certainly do want you to talk back during this hour as we open up the phone lines to you, allowing your thoughts on the issues of the day or bringing forward the issue you would like to make the one of the day. Whatever's on your mind, we are open for the conversation at 519-570-2545, star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Plenty going on provincially, at least in the way of announcements or information uncovered through various reports, freedom of information requests, etc. That starts at the University of Ottawa when we look at the province's plans to spend billions, yes, that's billions with a B, on building more prisons in Ontario. 6,000 prison beds to be added by 2050. A worthwhile endeavor? Is this just a sign of mismanagement within the system, or do we need more spaces to put incarcerated people? That's obviously something coming from the province that is worth exploring a little bit further. And then we've got the changes that have been announced to the education system. Among them, changes to what trustees will be responsible for. The Education Ministry signaling that boards of trustees for schools will be limited in how much they are paid to a $10,000 honorarium. They will also be limited to 12 members or less, which I don't think is an unreasonable thing. And they will be limited, school board trustees, as to what they are able to expense to the board. And we have seen some, quite frankly, gross mismanagement of those expense accounts, at least from where I'm sitting. And I understand that, criticisms when it comes to education, well, we need this and we need that. Classrooms are underfunded. We don't have enough teachers for the students, et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't mean we should ignore other problems. And this is an example of, if you'll forgive the turn of phrase, this is why we can't have nice things. I'm sorry we can't trust you with that expense account, because you have abused it before. So some guardrails will be put in place as far as that's concerned. Also, the appointment of a CEO instead of a director of education. I can't speak for every school board in this province, but I can tell you, and I think we all saw with our own eyes here in the region of Waterloo, our former director of education with our public school board was a flat out disaster who did virtually nothing for student success and academic outcomes, but did everything for himself while he was here. And I don't think that's an unfair characterization of the tenure of the now former public school board director of education. So if you're going to put a CEO in that place, isn't that better than what we had for almost 3 years here in this community? And I couldn't help but chuckle when I read my morning paper, and one of our public school board trustees is quoted in talking about these changes provincially, that it seems that student achievement is actually second to the bottom line. Well, I would like to know what public school board trustees think they have done to help with student achievement. I think it's a pretty rich comment, to be sure. And then, of course, provincially as well, there is the opening up and opening up even further, I would say, of rules around alcohol or the accessibility to alcohol. You want to go to a provincial park and enjoy a beer or a wine or whatever the case may be, well, you go right ahead and do that, says Doug Ford. Again, I will understand the critics of it and those who say there are other more pressing issues to look after provincially. But if you want to move us into a more European model that makes us adults when it comes to alcohol, I don't see why that is such a bad thing. Again, from where I'm sitting, maybe you see it differently. That's why we have Talk Back and get a chance to weigh in on all of these things. Let's get to the phones because the lines are getting busy and there's always one for you too. We'll start with Kyle this afternoon. Good afternoon, Kyle.
This weather is crazy. I left Waterloo Region, and it was 15 degrees. I got to Mississauga. It dropped to 8.5, and I was, like, wondering why my windows are fogging up. I was like, what the heck? So I heard that they're going to get lots of rain. Lots of thunderstorms came in tonight, or last night, I mean, and I guess we're going to get, I expect to get more. But my main reason why I'm calling is because I want to sweep. I want the brooms out. Let's go, Rangers. We got this. And the other reason why is because, Mike, you got a busy travel schedule, and I'm thinking about you, my friend. You know, I don't want this back and forth thing, 8 hours back to Sioux, and then back to Kitchener. We got to get this, buddy. So let's go, Rangers. Woo! Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Kyle. I hope you don't need your voice for the rest of the day. I love the enthusiasm. It's really all about me. Kyle's concerned about my travel schedule. If it's really all about me, can I ask a favor, please? Can we just dial it back about 20%? You're not wrong that the Rangers have put themselves in position to sweep this series. Let's just take it one day, one shift, one face-off at a time, okay? But gosh, would I love it if that happened. Could you imagine coming up here, getting both games and not having to come back? I like the Sioux. I don't always love the trip getting here. But anyway, the Kitchener Rangers with a big win last night. I can certainly understand your enthusiasm. Let's go next to Sean on Talkback this afternoon. Farwell's Force member number 165. Good afternoon, Sean.
Good afternoon. Oh, Kyle shouldn't have said that word. Oh,
I know, right? Yeah, come on, guys.
He jinxed it. Come on, don't say that. No, nobody say that word until it's over. Anyway, I just want to get away from politics. I was listening to about the guy that broke his big toe. Have you ever broke your big toe? It really, really sucks. I've done it. Breaking your big toe is no fun. It affects the way you walk. It hurts in your shoes. And when you sleep, you can't put your blankets over your foot. Don't break your big toe and don't make fun of the poor guy. It's horrible.
I wasn't trying to make fun of him. I'm just saying that's a fluke, freaky injury. I've never broken my big toe, thank goodness. But I believe it's painful.
Like it doesn't sound like a big thing, but if you do it, it interferes with everything you do, and it really, really hurts. And they can't really put a cast on it or anything. And I've done it like 3 times.
Kyle, Sean, sorry. I appreciate the call. Thanks for weighing in. I don't think anybody was making fun of George Springer. We were just kind of rolling our eyes or saying, what is next for this Blue Jays baseball team? It's like, was it Jimmy Key back in the day that had the blisters or the hangnail? I don't know. And it's tough as a pitcher. I get it, the way you're gripping the ball, doing all of these things and whatnot have you. But I'm not making fun. And since I admitted to this, at the risk of jinxing, I'm gonna knock wood over here. See if that came through for you. But not only have I never broken a big toe, I've never broken a bone yet. I hope I can say, maybe my last words will be, past the beer, I never broke a bone. That would be pretty cool. But honestly, to this point in my life, I fractured my ankle once. Does that count? I don't think so. It wasn't a full break. I never even had a cast on it. You know why? Because I'm tough. That's why. I'm tough as a $3 schnitzel. I'm making that up. It was not diagnosed until after the fact. I just walked around with a severe limp for a while. It's good to be young and be a kid where bones and such things heal, but never have I ever broken a bone. I once got hit by a car and did not come away with a broken bone. I don't know. Somebody is looking out for me, that little guardian angel on my shoulder. I feel bad for George Springer breaking his big toe. I feel bad for Blue Jays fans. But you know what? I don't feel as bad for Blue Jays fans as I feel for Leafs fans. The season mercifully comes to an end for the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Toll-free Jay is with us as well here on Talkback. Good afternoon, Jay.
Well, my life is about to change, but that'll be on Tuesday.
What's happening? Why?
Well,
are you getting married?
I'm actually moving.
Wait, moving again?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Is everything okay?
No.
Oh.
But I've been medically unsafe since I had left where I was, and I'm going to long-term care, but I'll be able to be in contact on a regular basis. But I do seriously need to thank Kitchener Fire and all the EMS, because they were here 17 times to help me. And it's by God's grace I've gotten through to this point. And Tuesday is the move.
Well, I hope the move goes well for you and you are in a very comfortable place.
I'll be in a differently located, but I will have my own room. So I'll be blasting off the ceiling.
All right, Jay. Thanks very much for the call. We wish you the very best. And thanks to Kitchener Fire and our other first responders who were able to help out Jay in his times, plural, of need. Because if I heard that correctly, he just said 17 times. Hope the move goes well for you next Tuesday, my friend, as we move on with Talkback here on the show. Open phone lines for you to discuss with us the issues of the day. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Every day, noon until 1, we open the phone line and give you the chance to talk back about the issues of the day or an issue that you would like to make the issue that we talk about on the show. We got a call yesterday on the show. And as always, this is an open book, right? We used to do a weekly segment on the show called Question or Comment that allowed you to just make a phone call, ask a question, make a comment about the show, whatever the case happened to be. And if I know the answer, I'm always going to give it to you. I'll certainly give it my best shot. And that was the case yesterday in one of the phone calls that we got. And then I also promised, you know what, I'm fortunate to have some resources here through the radio station, and I can even follow up further with the experts. So if you missed it yesterday, just to give you an idea of how this works, we got a call on the show with a question that I did my best to answer, but knew I could go somewhere else for a better answer. This is the call we got from our buddy Ranger Joe yesterday.
I've watched hockey a long time, and I'm an old guy. But one question that I have for you, have you not noticed over the last few years, why are goaltenders at the NHL level, and I don't know so much if they're doing it in the OHL, you would know more than I would on that, but in the NHL, why do goalies 90% of the time go down into the butterfly, leaving the top windows of the net wide open for players to score more goals? It drives me nuts once they go into the butterfly, because they're opening so much space around themselves instead of like, when Dryden was a goalie and Esposito, and those kind of guys, they were stand-up guys. They rarely went into the butterfly unless the play was right near them and they had to go down. But some of these goalies are just doing it too much, Mike. What do you think?
So that was Joe's question yesterday. And as usual, I will answer with what I think. And I gave my very best guess to the answer. And by the way, speaking of Ken Dryden, you know that I really don't like that team that he played for, right? That I will not even mention the name of that team that he played for. But Ken Dryden's book, The Game, one of the best damn hockey books, if not just one of the best damn books that I've ever read. It was a fantastic read. Nonetheless, I'm an older guy too, and I remember stand-up goaltenders, but I also remember that this butterfly style of goaltending came into being in hockey many, many years ago, decades ago now. But again, I can give my best guess. I'm no hockey expert. I've seen a lot of games. That doesn't necessarily make me an expert. But I said to Joe yesterday after I gave my best guess at an answer, you know what I could do? I could talk to a guy that really does know, who is an expert in goaltending, because you see, I just happened to be on the road with a hockey team, and their goaltending coach and video coach, Jordan DeCourt, is about as good as it gets when it comes to this league and being a goalie coach. Jackson Parsons, anyone, look at the way Jason Schaubel is developing. I could go on and on, but Jordan DeCourt has been a tremendous asset to this Kitchener Rangers team. So I thought, who better to get the answer from? So last night after the game, I took a moment and pulled Jordan aside and said, hey, we got this question from Ranger Joe on the show. He wants to know more about why goaltenders use the butterfly style. And here's the answer from the expert.
It's been around for a while now. The reason we use it is because the hardest thing to cover is the bottom of the ice. You need to get down quickly, and there's a lot of space to cover. So the butterfly kind of does that for you. So as soon as you drop into it, there's a part of the net that is just unavailable to the shooter. And kind of the way that a lot of coaches view goaltending is we want to cover as much net as possible on every save. So using the butterfly allows you to cover the bottom parts of the net and then worry about the top parts of the net with your hands and with your shoulders and other things like that. So it really is just honestly, it's a percentage game. It's also much easier for players to shoot on the ice as opposed to shoot high. So more shots tend to be low as opposed to high. Also, when there's traffic or there's anything like that, it's a lot harder to get pucks through high as opposed to low. So we want to use butterfly there to cover the lower part of the net and then react with our hands as we do.
The evolution of the style is one thing. How much does equipment play into this? Because it's lighter these days, and goaltenders are far better trained and stronger. Yeah,
absolutely. And the thing about today's game is, like, back in the day, it would all be about shot volume and how many shots can you get on net. Nowadays, it's about quality of shot. So the game has changed, especially even in the last 5 years. You look at NHL save percentages, they're dropping year over year for goalies. And it's not because the goalies are getting worse. The goalies are better than ever in the NHL. But the teams are taking less shots, and they're passing up low danger and medium danger chances to get high danger chances. So it's just kind of the evolution of the position, to be honest. And as things change and the game grows, I'm sure there'll be different adjustments. I wouldn't be surprised at some point in 50, 60 years if the stand-up goalie is back. So just keep watching. We might come back.
Goaltending guru, Jordan DeCourt. Thanks for this.
Absolutely.
That is the goaltending coach and video coach for the Kitchener Rangers, Jordan DeCourt. So see, even if I can't get you the answer immediately on the show, or I'm just taking my best guess, we can go to the people that give us the answers because they are the experts. And it might not surprise you that when you are traveling with a hockey team, any hockey team, I would assume, but if you're traveling with them, the conversation tends to turn to hockey more often than not. And Jordan is one of those guys that loves the game. So we finished that. So I knew I could bring forward the answer, the best answer for Ranger Joe's question about the butterfly style. But you heard Jordan mention at the end about the evolution of goalies. And, you know, in 50 or 60 years, who knows, the stand-up goalie might be back. And we got to chatting and he really got me thinking. I mean, we'd be naive to think that what we're seeing today is the way it's always going to be, right? Because what we're seeing today is clearly different than what we were seeing 50 years ago. And Jordan dropped this little nugget. He said he's talked to people who are in the game and train goaltenders, and they envision a future. Imagine this, where goaltenders' equipment is just like a onesie, like a one-piece goaltender equipment. Instead of pads, blocker, glove, all that different stuff, it's just a one piece that goaltenders are wearing to protect themselves from the shots that come in on them. Imagine that. But again, if you think about it, why wouldn't we expect change to happen in the decades ahead? It reminds me a little bit of this whole idea that someday when I call for a cab, an autonomous vehicle is going to show up at my house. Like, I'm never getting into it. I promise you that. But I think it would be naive to not believe that that is a part of our future. Hockey and a part of its future, Cooper Alls for goaltenders or something like that. You ask, we answer. And if I can't answer, I'll get you the answer as best I can. This is the Talk Back Hour. And we continue on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Noon to 1 every day, we open the phone lines so we can hear from you during the Talk Back Hour. It is access of yours to our tens and tens of listeners here on the show. Okay, we actually know by way of Farwell's Force that we are into hundreds and hundreds, 370 plus. Sequentially, we're up to about 370. Some randos, I love my randos in there too, that wanted to choose their own number for Farwell's Force. But if you listen for 15 minutes every day, you are welcome to be a member of our growing force for good, force for change, force to be reckoned with. Either way, whether you're a member of the force or not, you call during this hour, get a chance to share your thoughts on the issues of the day, or tell us something that's going on in your neck of the woods. Maybe we are not yet aware of it, and you can point us in the direction of something that should be an issue. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Preston Paul is next, Farwell's Force member number 45. Afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon, Mike. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We're supposed to start raining again, but it hasn't started yet. So
I saw the special weather statement you've got back there. Holy cow.
Yeah, well, it's better the rain than the other stuff. That's all I can say.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I liked your not everybody's a jackwagon today. That was pretty inspiring.
Wasn't that a nice story about little JJ?
Yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed that. So that's all I wanted to comment. I just brought a smile to my face, and I hope she does well. I hope it killed the cancer and she's cancer free. So fingers crossed.
Hey, before I let you go, pal, and thank you for that. It's a very nice thing. I hear the bird singing right beside you. Do you have a bird in the house? Are you in the backyard? That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I wondered if you could hear. Yeah, I got a cardinal here. He's chirping up a storm back here.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. So I got peanuts ready to go, but the squirrels will leave them alone. So, but,
good stuff.
Yeah, right on. So you have a great day, and good luck for tomorrow night. Go Rangers, go!
Thanks, Paul. Good to hear from you today. And Paul was making reference to the story, the uplifting story, the heartfelt good news story that we share with you every day on the show at 10:20. We call it "Not Everybody is a Jackwagon," just so you remember that. And there was a young girl. Her picture is on our Facebook page. Feel free to check it out. Just go on Facebook and search The Mike Farwell Show. We're there. Follow along. and then you won't miss it when we make a post. But she held up a sign last night that said, I traveled 781 kilometers to celebrate the end of my chemotherapy. And young Jordan has been following the Rangers for a long time. Home, away, you'll find JJ at Kitchener Rangers games. And that included last night all the way up here in the Sioux. And it did not go unnoticed. This little cutie patootie with her sign drove 781 kilometers to tell the Rangers I'm officially done chemo. And that got noticed, you see, that sign. And so Jordan was invited into the Rangers dressing room to read their starting lineup for last night's game against the Sioux Greyhounds. Of course, the Rangers won the game. And as Paul said, he and many other Ranger fans, I'm sure, are now pulling for the Rangers to finish it off tomorrow night in game number 4. And of course, you'll hear that game starting with pregame coverage at 6:30 right here on 570 News Radio. Let's go next to Grant on Talkback today. Good afternoon, Grant.
Yeah, good afternoon. I never heard of this, what you were talking about last night or yesterday, but I kind of Googled it. Floor crossing. That almost sounds like it's done in secret, and it probably shouldn't be done in secret, correct?
Well, I'm sure. I suspect there were deals made to incentivize someone to cross the floor. But Grant, I'm sorry you had to Google that. I mean, gosh, we've been talking about it since last fall when the first member crossed the floor over to the Liberals.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I said, I'm not too familiar with that term.
That's okay, as long as you got familiar with it now.
But it shouldn't be really done that way. Is that not correct?
I don't think it should be done that way. No.
Yeah. Okay. And then because they're having a thing at the Whale and Ale the end of this month with our Liberal leaders, so I'm going to touch on that one too. And
wait! The Liberal leader is coming to the Whale and Ale in Kitchener?
Yeah, I guess it's the. I think her name is Jameson. It's whoever looks after this area. I'm not. Yeah. So it's going to be out there from 7 to 9.
All right, Grant. Well, listen, as always, appreciate the calls. I haven't heard anything. I don't think it's going to be the provincial and certainly not the federal Liberal leader. That wouldn't be so under wraps. And I don't think you'd know 2 weeks in advance either. So I'm not sure what Liberal leader Grant is referring to. Maybe the Liberal Party Association. I don't know. But that's a curious one from where I'm sitting today. Nonetheless, glad you got up to speed with floor crossing. And you know that I would just like to see somebody who wishes to cross the floor. Fine, just go to a by-election, go back to the voters who elected you into office in the first place and see if they are okay with you crossing the floor to another party. That's how I feel about it. Talkback continues. Willie is with us this afternoon. Good afternoon, Willie.
How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Farwell Force Random number 1701.
You randos. You know what, Willie? Real quick, yeah. I just learned why 1701 was your choice. I did not know that. So live long and prosper, my friend.
Live long and prosper, exactly, yeah. I know you like to talk about, not everybody's a jackwagon, but it's one of those days, so I thought I would do a salute to jackwagons with 2 examples.
Absolutely. Okay,
first, the jackwagon that, when you're driving on Conestoga Parkway and you're going to turn off on Victoria Street as you're heading towards Waterloo, they've closed the one right lane there for some reason. I think it's just to inconvenience traffic because nothing has happened in that lane since it's been closed. All it does is back traffic up further. So that was a really good jackwagon thing to do, just to make driving more difficult on the parkway. My second salute to jackwagons is the jackwagon that they don't want to come if I'm in an exit lane leaving the highway to go to a street or to another highway. Rather than go into the 300-400 meters behind me where there's no car, they have to drive in front of me and squeeze their way in front of me because they want to get ahead of me. So like 2 real good jackwagons.
Willie, I'm here for it. I had the same thing happen to me on 7-8 westbound last week when I was headed out to New Hamburg, coming up on Trussler Road. And I always leave plenty of distance between me and the vehicle in front, just like we were taught. And multiple vehicles came
all the time,
crashing up the left lane, cutting in. Yep, they're slamming on their brakes because they're going so damn fast, and then it just slows everybody down.
True.
Yeah.
On your garbage concern for the region with the new garbage, which I don't understand why we changed, because the old system in my mind worked really well, but supposedly it's more efficient or whatever reason they came up with. But if I was I'm a taxpayer, so I think one thing we should get from them is what was the cost per household to run the old system, and now this new system, since it's more efficient, how much has the cost per household reduced? All the costs in this new system added in to run this new system, because if it's more efficient, it should be saving us money, right? But they've never talked about that.
Of course it should. Yeah, I think it's supposed to save money, but of course, it's not like we'll get a rebate on those taxes. They'll just find another place to spend.
Exactly, but that would be an interesting item to ask someone in the regional council is to, how much has the cost per household gone down with this new system?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. We'll see if we can find an answer to that one too. Thanks, Willie. You too. Bye-bye. So, and listen, I'm here for a salute to jack wagons. Like we could have one of each on the show. I think often, especially during this hour, Mondays, it's a rant or rave thing. And other times, when we start our show, Doug was talking this morning, right at the beginning of the show, about the roundabout at Fisher Holman and Huron Road that is a constant thorn in his side. Look, there are jack wagons everywhere, but we just take a moment every day around 10:20 to share the story of the person who is not a jack wagon, just to remind us, and so then you get your pick, right? You want to listen at 10:20 and hear an uplifting, positive story. Do you want to hear other salutes to jack wagons during the show? We're here for all of it, because we are one big, happy family of different personalities and different behaviors, and that's what makes things so darn interesting. But I can definitely feel that point that Willie made about vehicles wanting to exit the highway, and at the last moment, it seems, they just want to cut over to get to that exit. I told you about that last week when I was on my way out to New Hamburg, and it happened multiple times. And the last guy that did it, I was sitting in my vehicle and I'm just shaking my head, and then he shakes his head back at me because he saw me in his rear view, because he knew what he did, screaming up the left lane at a high speed, cutting over into the space that I was leaving to stay safer in the right lane, hammering on his brakes because he was going so fast. It just slows everybody down. So I had the opportunity, because that lane was so slow getting off at Trussler Road that I was going further on, I could get into the left lane and get back up to normal highway speed. And I laid on the horn at this guy like you wouldn't believe. I was that upset. I gave him the hard blast on that horn, and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and pointed at the exit sign. I'm like, buddy, you should have come in behind me. This is what we were taught in driver's school. Plan ahead. Make your lane change 500 meters earlier. Get in the appropriate lane. Stop cutting people off. But we kind of get in those boxes, those big steel cages, and we think it's only us on the roads, right? Nothing else matters. It's our music. It's our world. It's our everything. And we'll just go wherever we want. As long as we signal, it should be fine. Sorry, did I just further Willie's salute to jack wagons? I think I might have. I had to get that off my chest again. Let's get back to the phones. Romeo is with us here on Talkback. Farwell's Force, member number 306. Good afternoon, Romeo.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm excited for the Rangers. They're doing pretty well these days.
Yes, they are.
Anyways, I got a little bit of a rant here. I just know, I don't know why, but I'd like to see in Victoria Park, the power outlets. They run all winter long for Christmas tree lights, and I understand that. But we live in an electricity kind of age now. Everyone has an e-bike or a laptop, and I personally want to play my keyboard at Victoria Park and play some piano for the people. But they never let the people use them, and I'd like to see them open. I don't understand why they don't allow down the people to access them. And also, last year, we have lots of picnic tables in Victoria Park by the basketball nets, and they never spread them around, I noticed. And this is a little bit of a rant. So that's my or
All
say
right.
for today.
All right. Thanks, Romeo. Appreciate hearing from you. I mean, I would guess that those outlets aren't left open constantly so that people aren't constantly drawing the power from them, right? And if you want to play a keyboard, I'm sure a little tiny generator should get you going. I don't know. That's just me. And listen, as somebody who is frequently at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, I can tell you, and I don't like, I try not to let this bother me. It's a very little thing. And every time I think about it, I'm just like, Farwell, just don't worry about it so much. Like, give it up. But they have at the Memorial Auditorium those charging stations for electric vehicles. And I know for certain, because I'm at that complex so much, that people, like, there are always the same cars there. They're not parked, they're not going to the odd. There's nothing going on at the odd. It's not a staff person at the odd. It's somebody from the neighborhood that realizes, oh, hey, instead of charging up at my house, I can go charge up at the charging station at the City of Kitchener lot at the Memorial Auditorium for quote unquote free. Again, it's a little, like, why should it bother me? Charging station is there. Might as well use it. But I know for sure that you're not just using it because you stop by the odd for something. It's people in the neighborhood that use it as their own personal charging machine, which is why I think, again, Romeo, that you don't get to have those outlets accessible all year round. I could be wrong. That's my guess. Maybe it's an educated guess. Maybe you have a better guess. That's what Talkback is for. We talk about things, and we'll continue. Rudy is next, and there's a line for you on the Mike Farwell Show this afternoon. This is 570 News Radio. Every day, noon until 1, our phone lines are open to you for the daily Talk Back Hour. Who wouldn't want to spend their lunch hour having a conversation? It beats doom scrolling your phone, I promise you that. Let's get right back to our phones, and Rudy is here on Talk Back. Good afternoon, Rudy.
Yeah, hi, Mike. At least it's not raining. I can get home because I'm on my way home and walk the dogs without being rained on. But what I'm going to talk about is now the new roundabout on Highway 24, Hespeler Road by Maple Grove. And between Maple Grove and the Queen Street roundabout by Hespeler, it used to be 80 kilometers. Well, it's 60 now, and a lot of people don't know that. And on your radio station yesterday, I heard, after picking up my grandson, that they had radar there the other day from 8 to 11. They picked up a whole bunch of people. The highest speed in the 60 zone was 127. So there were 3 stunt drivers and a whole bunch of other people got it. They're all surprised. When I drive through there yesterday, I put it a little over 60, I'll be honest. Maybe 70, big deal. But I had people going right up my caboose and speeding past me doing at least 80. So maybe they should watch it going down there. That's my message.
Not a bad
today.
idea. All right, Rudy. Thanks very much. Good to hear from you. And I appreciate the message. I feel exactly the same way every day, except days when I'm doing the show like this remotely, because I'm not driving on Ira Needles Boulevard. But every day when I go to work on what I like to call the Ira Needles racetrack, it is exactly the same thing. The limit is 60. I keep her around 65, and I might as well be standing still out there. But I mean, let's be honest, right? Speed limits are merely a suggestion, or at least that's the way many of us seem to treat them. And listen, I'm a guy that enjoys things that go fast. I like to go fast. That's why sometimes you're on the highway. Or if you're lucky enough, you actually take the time to go to one of the tracks nearby that allow you to go fast on things that go fast. But you don't do that on the road because, you see, it's not just your road, and you are endangering other people. And that, quite frankly, is just not cool. I understand that it is a busy world, and we often find ourselves in a hurry. And I know how preachy this sounds. I do. So I'll have to just ask you to bear with me and put up with it and just roll your eyes. Here comes Preacher Farwell again. But I recognize in my own behaviors behind the wheel, if I'm running behind, how much more anxious I am, how much less patient I am, how much more likely I am to be an amber gambler and make that turn or run through that light that's about to turn red or to get frustrated with other people. I'm telling you, the way I started this so many years ago now, and I'm sure it has added years back to my life. Leave yourself plenty of time to get where you're going and then just get there. Enjoy. It's life. It's life. Just enjoy the ride, man. It's super cool. Just drive the speed limit because you're not in a hurry. You're not in a hurry, and you will find the experience that much better. You'll get annoyed by the other jackwagons out there, but you don't have to be among them. You see how that works? All right. I got to get out of here. The day for me is about done. Now you know with Rob Snow is coming up as I look to our show tomorrow. Are we ready for a 40-story tower in Preston? Preston needs 40 stories. Are we losing local representation? Is Queen's Park and our provincial government centralizing more power? And what about 15% of your grade in high school being connected to your attendance? We'll talk about that and so much more on our Thursday show. I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9. I invite you to join me right here. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.